A bittersweet weekend for Jonquel Jones. What should have been a celebration of her making WNBA history turned into something that perhaps is a larger conversation about how we use and I don't know, maybe how we view athlete-led platforms at an event like WNBA All-Star. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome to Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, hosted by Brian Florentin, that's that gentleman right over there, as well as myself, Erica L. Ayala. A little bit of a deep topic here, and it's one that I think is necessary for a lot of different reasons. So we are going to talk about Jonquel Jones. And then, of course, we have to talk about the New York Liberty. And, what is the next part of the season going to look like? They did get some wins heading into All-Star. And I think still a lot of questions that need to be answered by this team. We'll talk about all of that and more on today's episode.
Gotta get up.
Gotta get up.
Gotta get up.
Gotta get up.
Oh, yeah.
New York.
Oh, yeah.
New York.
Hey, women's basketball fans, welcome to Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans brought to you by Black Rosie Media. I'm Erica L. Ayala.
And I'm Brian Florentin.
And we're your New York Liberty experts and co-hosts. We've covered the 2024 championship run and followed your favorite players all the way to the Paris Olympics.
Every episode, we bring you game recaps, the latest news and transactions, and exclusive interviews with Liberty players and coaches from the past, present, and future that you won't hear anywhere else.
We're building a community for fans who love this game as much as we do. So whether you're part of the Barclays faithful or tuning in from afar, we bring you closer to your
New York Liberty.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans. Erica L. Ayala here alongside Brian Florentin. And listen, we are coming off of an all-star weekend where we had boots on the ground. Roberta Rodriguez, who is my co-host of Betnijah Talk, where we keep a local eye on your Seattle Storm, and I were both at All-Star. Brian and Alexis were holding it down in New York, and it was a really impactful, I would say, weekend, not without its flaws, which we will talk about from the New York Liberty perspective, and specifically Jonquel Jones, as you can see in our thumbnail and our title here. But Brian, before we get into that, I want to come to you. And again, you were helping with the coverage and also, of course, as our curator of our newsletter, the Women's Basketball Roundup, you were helping us just keep tabs on what was happening for All-Star. What are your big kind of broad strokes takeaways from Chicago?
Well, firstly, before I get to all that, Erica, let me ask you a question. Secret Service was jamming it up like that?
Hey, listen, they were swift with it. I was at the Olympics, as you know. Black Rosie Media was also boots on the ground for the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milano Cortina. And when I tell you the difference between, and I guess the events are also different, but even just the tone and how things were communicated with us between the Obama Presidential Center and the Olympics, very different, night and day. I'm not saying it does have to do with the administrations. I'm not saying it doesn't. I will just say one was a much more controlled environment, that being the Obama Presidential Center. Everyone had effectively already been vetted. Now, I guess you could also say that for the Olympics because there is a credentialing process there, but we had no communication. I actually did literally get caught in the middle, and they were like, yo, you can't come out. I was like, I gotta go, fam, because I got an interview to do. I was interviewing Alona's sisters, and they were like, no, you can't leave. And I was like, y'all gotta let me up out of here. So it's funny that you asked that, because I've had very different experiences in the last, I don't know, I guess the last several months, seven months, right, with Secret Service. Yeah, so that was crazy. It was crazy overall. So I would say I'd much rather have the Obama presidential experience at the center. than what I experienced when the vice president was at the Winter Olympics. But other than that big question, Brian, what else were your takeaways, and what other questions do you have?
I I love that the entire weekend felt like the sort of like permanent mainstreaming of the WNBA for me. I think being the first league to do events at the Obama Center is such a stamp for the WNBA. And in fact, I think the first sporting team in general was the Seattle Storm. So that's another nice plug for Temper Stashi Talk later this week. And I think it's just a really cool validation of all the work that the players and various stakeholders of the league have been putting in since the Summer Olympics of '96 to get to this point where it's now you are firmly in the mainstream. Barack pulling up, he know everybody get down, he know what's up, and it's a fun time, and it's just that validating presence and that sort of like permanent stamp that you guys that the league has made it and is really mainstream in a positive way. Because a lot of times, and it was a little bit of it over the weekend, it became a little bit more of like the discourse the capital D that sometimes covers the league too much, and that can be draining. But I think having the events that celebrate the league, doing things at the presidential center, really being present in the community. Erica, you were at a lot of community events. I think there was like Queen's Council, something like that. There's one of the names, if I'm not mistaken. It was like really cool, engaging activities. And I feel like having that as part of All-Star, where you're highlighting the past, present, and future of women's basketball, Unrivaled had their stations there. That those were a big hit. Just select the activities, the Friday night part of it with seeing Elena coming back for the first time in a long time. Like, she's been away. Lauren I don't think LG has been in the States for a long time. Like, Lauren was back. So it's really cool. Tootie Nolan was there. Brunson was there. Like, being able to really connect the history of the league to the present, I think matters so much. And I feel that the league did a good job in connecting those bridges together, because especially now with the influx of talent coming in from the NCAA ranks throughout the 2020s and 2030s, whether it be a Juju Watkins, Hannah Hidalgo, Sarah Strong, all this great talent is coming. So I think the foundation has fully been set. So when the kids come up in like 2028, 2029, 2030, when we are at the Summer Olympics in LA 2028, you're going to really see the sort of like permanent stamp of women's basketball here in the USA. And I think overseas is starting to catch up as well too. Dom Malonga stole the show this weekend. Our Farm was on site. The successful team in Toronto. So many great things are coming together. And I feel like just watching from New York, that was such a beautiful, validating presence. I can't imagine for folks like yourself, Erica, like you and Doug Feinberg, and so many people who have been in the game for a long time, just sort of having this space and just having this positivity and people coming to the league and seeking out the work that you guys have been doing for such a long time. It must have been so cool just sort of be like, oh, wow, like the stuff I did helped get it to this point.
Yeah, it was really cool. I like that. Thank you. Yeah, I like the term that you used, validating. I was saying that the term that I used over the weekend was there was joy. Everything from the clip that we shared on Black Rosie Media and was shared elsewhere, but the clip that we had of Barack Obama. First, we took it. I took the video looking at NECA and Obama, because they had like you mentioned in passing, Brian, and other players mentioned it. You know, Barack Obama went to most every player. I don't know that there were many players or any players that he skipped over at all. But he had conversations with a lot of the players, and, you know, the players saying, oh, wow, it was really cool for him to know something about every player that was there, about their history. And yeah, I'm sure he was prepped a little bit, and he's a hooper. And outside of the politics, outside of the community, which is really important to me, and we actually talked about on our live stream the day before, you know, I was talking about John Lewis. I mentioned the Voting Rights Act, and we were talking about that. And I've shared on social media that then after we had that live stream, I saw someone on the train or the L wearing a John Lewis shirt. I promise you not. Not even 2 hours removed from us talking about it on the stream. And then the next day I go to the Obama Presidential Center and the John Lewis Plaza is right there. And then I go to an event for the Players Association and Rock the Vote is there talking about and so we're talking about voting and the 2020 when the players helped flip a Senate seat and all of this. So that for me personally was really great to watch. Some of the events, and it was Queens of the Court. I do want to get to Queens of the Court, but as far as community events, there are a few things that stood out to me. Swin Cash had an event, and I had already made plans, and we'll talk about scheduling because that was a little bit of a demerit. And Chicago has, and I say Chicago, listen, I have a lot of issues with the Chicago Sky organization, and I have no problem putting them out there. And Chicago ends up, I feel like Chicago, when they host All-Star, they end up hosting All-Stars that seem, for whatever reason, one reason or another, to have a really short runway or not enough planning time, while also putting on a pretty good show. Like there were some things that were not great logistically, and there were some amazing things. And I just think that speaks to the city and the culture of Chicago. And I wonder what would happen if Chicago got like a proper chance as a city to host All-Star. But I digress. I'll talk about a few things and then we'll get into our topics for the day. One was Swin Cash. I have been a huge Swin Cash fan for a while, since that 02 Huskies team. And I've gotten to work with her in this space for a while. And she had an event. I had already made plans with a good friend of mine outside of the space. But as it turned out, my friend, not only did she live right up the block from Swin's event, so even though I was late, I was able to get there, but she's also having her wedding there at the same event, at the same venue, that Swin held it at. And that's going to be in September. So my friend was like, girl, like, not only is that right down the block, but that's where you're coming for my wedding. So that was interesting. But I got there and it was pretty much wrapped up. People are starting to make their way to other events. And the event there was a panel that I missed. And there were some players that spoke, so I missed that. But the other part of it was an exhibition, and Swin, with her She's Got Time platform and her company, they were able to partner with the WNBA team that is returning to Detroit, and they were able to have the Detroit banner, the Shock banner. They had the 2003 Detroit Shock Championship trophy there. There were all of these art pieces, like the, She's Got Next. If you have been a W fan for a while, then you know about that campaign. She had that poster. She had a poster of one of her New York Liberty squads. It was probably the last WNBA team that she played on. Well, New York was definitely, but I meant like as far as like the actual team and the starting lineup and stuff like that. And, Swin actually took a pay cut for that team to, get some things together. And anyway, what I liked is that even though the event was closing down, and I just asked Swin a really simple question. I said, what does this feel like for you? And she started to describe it. And then she's like, you know what? Follow me. And so she took me, and I had already walked through the exhibition, but she walked me through, and I got to hear her express, what everything meant to her. So that was really cool. That was one thing. Like you mentioned, Queens of the Court. First of all, Ari Chambers has been on the Gotta Get Up podcast. We've mentioned before that the E in our logo is actually, it comes from Ari Chambers. So if you're familiar with our logo, that E that's there is taken from a photo of Ari holding it, and then we added Ellie. But seeing her be able to host that panel, she's had a little bit of a rough time, and I think she started sharing her story on just transitioning away from a pretty large platform and trying to find her voice again. So she was everywhere All-Star weekend, and she got really emotional because everyone on that panel, she went down the line, and you could tell she curated the panel because she talked about Diana Taurasi being one of the first players that she interviewed. As a matter of fact, I was there for that interview. Not only was I there for that interview, but I was the one holding her phone to take the video. So, it's really interesting to just kind of see all of these through lines. She talked about Dawn Staley, she talked about Raven Johnson, Kayla McBride, and that was really cool to see. But the history, and like you said, Brian, the connectivity between the past, the present, and the future. And I think we saw that in the Shooting Stars competition and etc. So I thought that was really, really cool. And I'm sure there's more that we'll talk about between this episode and Thursday's episode of Think Betnijah Talk, like Brian mentioned. And if y'all have questions about what are some of our favorite moments are, what some of our least favorite moments were, then let us know in the chat. We'll definitely be taking a look at the questions. I can tell you right now, Damien, we're not getting into your suggestion for dunking, so you can keep that. We're not doing that. So I'm gonna let you know right now. So you could ask, but I ain't getting into it because the answer is no. But anyway, before we move on, and we are going to talk about some heavy yes, but also, there's a lot of nuance, I think, also in what we're going to talk about. Before we do that, though, you mentioned Seattle, and I know a few people who usually watch Tempestagi Talk are here. Just want to send, our love to the community of Seattle between an unfortunate public shooting that happened over the weekend, and a lot of people also concerned. We shared this in our Slack channel, but apparently there is a group that's planning to host a rally in support of Sophie Cunningham, and specifically her comments about the transgender community. I think there are a lot of people that have some concerns about going to the Seattle Storm game, which is right by the Seattle Center where the shooting is, or was, excuse me. So we're just sending some love there. Please, everyone, do what you need to do to feel safe and uplifted. And again, the WNBA is a space of joy. And with that sometimes comes infiltration from things that are outside of what the community is about. And so while it's unfortunate, there's a realness to that as well, right? Black joy is often co-opted. It is usurped by all of the reasons why we need Black joy and queer joy, and to hold space for women in the society. And that's not lost on me, and I'm sure Brian would say something similar. So I just wanted to say that out loud. But for today, and with respect to the New York Liberty, let's talk about Jonquel Jones. And again, there's a lot that is going to go into this, but first we'll start with congratulations. Jonquel Jones won another MVP, Brian, and she made a little bit of history in the process because she is the first and only player to win MVPs in basically every MVP category you can win in the WNBA. So I'll let you take it from there.
Yep. MVP regular season 2021, Kathy Cup 2023, Big Finals 2024, All-Star 2026. And as I saw that graphic that they put out, the first thing I thought to myself was, in a couple years, whenever the time comes, that's going to be a great little factoid Ahmad Rashad says in Springfield for JJ's Hall of Fame induction. It's like, oh, did you know Jonquel Jones was the first player to win WNBA MVP, Commissioner Cup MVP, WNBA Finals MVP, All-Star Game MVP, and representing the Bahamas and doing it in style? Let's watch this video. So yes. when JJ has the cool clothes in what insert year here after retirement when she's in Springfield for the Hall of Fame, that's going to be a nice little factoid that we hear. It's going to be really cool and it's going to be really fun. And I think I All-Star, I tell my friends all the time, don't work an All-Star weekend. Like what do you do? Just go hang out, have fun. And for players, it's you handle business, you do all these activations, all these kind of things, and then with the game itself, you're not going full speed, but you still get a chance to showcase the skills you have in front of a large audience that on a channel everyone has. because for All-Star Game, it's on big ABC and not ESPN, not on the not ESPN2, anything like
For
that.
now, anyway, we'll see what the competition looks like in a few years.
Yeah, it's heating up. But you on big Channel 7 and Disney Plus, so everybody can pull up, everybody sees it, and to come in like JJ did and just sort of like showcase the entire arsenal, the passing, 8 assists, which is tremendous passer that I think we talk about it sometimes on a national scale, but not enough to my liking when it comes to her game. Like her passing was on point. The sharp shooting was there, getting on the boards is there, like being able to sort of showcase the entire uniqueness of her game. I love that she got that opportunity on a big stage like that with millions of people watching at home. It's fun. And even though she didn't really have to break a full sweat, it was still cool to see her showcase in that regard. And I think sort of like remind people that, hey, that's still, when everything is locked in, that is a top 10 player in the sport. And depending on the day, it could be a lot higher. So it's really fun to sort of see that, just like a little teaser for what's to come in the second half of the season. So I thought that was really fantastic.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, 8 assists, and it is a part of the game. It is also a part of the game that I have admittedly said drives me a little wild. We talk about sometimes the underhand lob pass. Like we don't do no more of that, JJ. Don't do no more of that. But otherwise it was 8. So it was almost a triple double, 22 points, 13 rebounds, and 8 assists. Listen, we got to talk about Caitlin Clark set the tone early, a little bit controversial in some of her comments, honestly, throughout the whole weekend. But still a great performance. And but Kelsey Mitchell, Marina Mabry, and of course Dominique Malunga, the Dom Dunk. And that's more of something that we'll talk about. I don't want to steal Thursday's thunder, so to speak, but I got to also interview Dominique Malunga after that. So if you haven't seen that clip on CBS Sports, then you will see it. Oh, there I was wondering if you're gonna do it. Go ahead, Brian.
America's #1 network.
Right there she is. But we'll talk more about that for sure on Thursday. A few things before we get into again some of the heaviness. I thought it was really adorable that Coach Rich, as she's known to Jonquel Jones, her mentor, her basically, especially if you know hockey, like the Billet, her Billet family was there to support her. And I think that was important for a lot of reasons. As you mentioned, coming from the Bahamas, came to the continental US very young and without family to pursue basketball. Went to George Washington, is in the Hall of Fame there, was inducted just a couple of years ago, actually, and has again made history. And it was a great moment to see her share that moment. I don't know exactly. I was elsewhere, so I was watching this after the fact. But there was someone in the media that was asking the All-Stars who is the All-Star in their life. Again, we'll probably talk more about this a little bit later. But I thought Jonquel had a great answer. Gabby Williams, who I also got to interview, had a great answer that Liberty fans, I'm sure, loved. She said her partner, for those who don't know, and it is official in public, so we can say it on the pod now. She is dating, of course, Maureen Ionescu, our very own, who is and did travel with the team for their West Coast trip. So did Leonie Fibic. Satu Sabali did not travel with the team. So that was just a quick little update there. But things, Brian, got emotional for JJ. And that is because she was asked about a clip that I suppose went viral. I did not watch the Stud Buds stream. I have never watched the Stud Buds stream in totality. I think I'm of a generation, or perhaps I'm just of a disposition where that's beyond my years, and I'll catch up when I can. And I think there's some great things that have come across with Stud Buds. There's some really controversial things that have come across with Stud Buds, and they're all worth talking about. But in this case, Jonquel Jones was making a comment and effectively said, Brian, that she felt that the Minnesota Lynx deserved to win in 2024. Now, of course, that is the year that the New York Liberty won their first ever championship and where she won her finals MVP. That was also Jonquel's first championship. Before we get into, and we're going to play the clip of Jonquel Jones expressing herself, she was asked if she wanted to address that. Brian, what were your thoughts when that started coming to your attention? I don't know if you were watching the stream or like take me through that. See, I know a few things, but no, take me through how you learned of it, and what were your thoughts with regard to what Jonquel said about the 2024 championship?
Yeah, because like I was watching some of the stream with some friends of mine. It was like, oh, okay, it was cool. Like everyone's there having a good time, and I'm like, okay, I gotta get some sleep. Like, there's no real basketball for me to write about, so I can just turn my brain off for a couple hours and relax. And then I think I woke up like it might have been Saturday morning where I hopped on Twitter, the Everything app, and I was like, oh, people are really hot at JJ. What the hell happened? And it was so vague, and no one had a clip of what was the alleged infraction. So I'm like, what is happening? Like, no one has like the source material. And the best way to hear something is take it from the primary source. Like everything secondary, tertiary, it gets lost in translation and becomes a weird game of telephone. So I was like, let me get the actual factual thing of what happened. So I was able to track it down eventually. And then I heard it. She was like, in 2019, we deserved it. And then in 2024, I'll deserve it. I'm like, my first thought was like, you're talking to your friend, and always like, if you learn one thing from me ever, just remember these 3 words: the camera's on, the camera's on, the camera's on, the camera's on. And microphones are on, cameras are great. Captures everything, the camera's on. So first thing I'm like, oh, the camera's on, and you're not on camera, but the camera's on, and people can hear you loud and clear. And then when I thought about the comment itself, I was like, I mean, she's wrong about 2024. I'm like, I was at all 5 games. Like, you were better than Minnesota. Like, as great as Minnesota is, you were better. And we deal with it here on occasion. Sometimes people like, I remember in 2024, people will come in here and be like, oh, the Skyline dress is that's why they won the championship. And I'm like, no. And one thing that gets lost in time about Game 5 in particular, the Liberty almost gave that game away at the very end. Like right after Stewie made the 2 free throws, I think someone was inbounding, and then Stewie and JJ both went to the wing. K-Mac flashed wide open. JJ recovered late, got a hand up a second late, and it missed. And if K-Mac hits that open 3 that she can hit 9 times out of 10, the entire Liberty world from 2024 onward is completely different for everybody here. But it didn't. They went into overtime, solidly steal, breakaway lay. Congratulations to New York City. You did it. So I heard that. I'm like, that's probably just talking to your friend. And I'm like, and I also got the sense of like, some people like dogging JJ, but I'm like, dude, like, you talk to JJ for like 5 minutes. Like, she'll clearly tell you how much she loves New York City. Like, I feel I had thought to work on something earlier this year, but I never got around to it. But like, I feel for JJ, New York really feels like home in a very special and unique way. Just being a basketball superstar in a way that she is. And it means a lot in New York City and how she carries her role in the franchise, and sort of being someone that takes that responsibility when things go badly. Because I think about this group has like, they've had a lot of like hard failures as a franchise in New York since she's been here 2023 and last year in 2025. And I've always found JJ to be someone that stands up and takes accountability for when she falls short. Because I remember after that game 3 loss against Phoenix, she was like, I didn't really play well and I let everyone down and I have to be better. In 23, she was like, man, I fought through the injury, but at the end, I didn't get to where I needed to be, and I'm going to be better next time. So I feel for JJ, that's a level of pride and trust in what she does as a basketball star for this city in particular. And I feel like that manifests in everything she does, how she carries herself on the court, how she looks to be in the community here in New York, how she just makes the part of Brooklyn she lives in home in that regard. So I feel when people were dogging her, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like, it's one of the things where it's like, it sounds funny, but if you know JJ and you've heard her talk long enough, you know that a comment that seems a little bit wonky isn't the JJ's not like, in this kind of thing. I'm like, guys, you know her well enough to be like, okay, this sounds a little bit funny, but in how JJ carries it and how that series was, frankly, like the Lynx had no answers for JJ, especially when Lan
Yeah.
Look, man.
Listen, and for all of the things that you're saying, that's why when I caught wind of the JJ comments, I was like, here we go. Like I like to think I do a pretty good job of keeping my emotions in check. I've been very upfront with, I grew up watching the New York Liberty, and I was a Cheryl Swoops fan and then a Liberty fan. That was the hierarchy. And so by way of being a Swoops fan, I would root for the Comets. And then when the Comets played New York, I would be in the building because I was a New Yorker and have a very conflicted preteen. And I come at this as an analyst, as someone who now works in the space. So, but I was like, come on, man, like, let's not do this. It was wild. Some of the things that were said in 2024, even by Becky Hammon, who y'all know I love. And I have all kinds of stories about Becky Hammon from growing up. But I was just like, man, here we go. People already with their conspiracy theories and controversies, and myself included. The one thing that ticks me off is that, we were being sold that Nafisa Collier is just really great at tying up the ball. I was like, okay, sure, Jan. So that's really interesting. I do want to get to something, Crash Out. Very interesting. Crash Out Willie. It's so interesting that you assumed that you knew what I was talking about when it came to Caitlin Clark controversy, because I didn't express that. But since you are making assumptions in the chat, I'll say this. I do think it's controversial for a Nike athlete to know that Nike had launched an entire campaign to have all white shoes, and then to not only say that you thought that was boring, but to then go against the entire Nike campaign. Like, that to me is controversial. I also think it's controversial to have a conversation and say that, and controversial doesn't mean right or wrong. It just means that it's a little spicy. I do think it's also controversial to say that, the reason that you came out shooting lights out is because, you wanted to give the fans something to watch. And Holly Rowe had been kind of setting this up, because actually I was at a Caitlin Clark event. Wilson invited me to a Caitlin Clark event and was able to hear from her and talk about a few things. But it was controversial because there seems to be a difference of opinion when it comes to athletes on what is expected at All-Star. I do hear what Caitlin is saying, and I think she's right. Fans pay good money, they travel, and they want to see excitement. And I agree with what Stewie said in that if you want players to go all out at All-Star, then you have to give them more time to rest. The New York Liberty play tomorrow. The Indiana Fever play tomorrow. And
both in Pacific time zone.
Right. And Chicago is in Central. So that's 2 hours for both teams. We didn't see Aaliyah Boston. I think perhaps it's controversial to accept a spot at All-Star and then not play in All-Star. So those were the controversies I was talking about. And they involve Caitlin Clark because she spoke out about them, but they're controversial because where does the league stand on these things? So I don't exactly know what you were referring to, but that's what I was referring to. So anyway, but this is not an Indiana Fever podcast. So we're going to keep it moving, and we will talk about Indiana and Seattle on Thursday. But, so the situation, JJ bringing that up, I was like, man, I don't want to go back there. Like, New York won. That was also, again, controversial. You could, for me, it means you can see it a lot of different ways, and people are going to have opinions. And a lot of people had opinions about 2024. And so I was like, man, what's going on? And then I heard what Jonquel Jones said. And like you said, she mentioned that Connecticut team. That Connecticut team, hands down, the best team going into the postseason. And they didn't win. Washington won because Washington was the better team in the finals. Minnesota, best team coming into 2024. And they didn't win. New York won because specifically for 5 minutes in overtime in game 5, they were the better team. Everything else was on the line, literally, on the line. And it could have gone one way or another. It went New York's way. And so out of context, or the way she said it, similarly to controversial in 2023, what Kelsey Plum said. Did I understand what she meant? Yes. Did I like how she said it? They don't love each other? No. And you know who else didn't like it? Jonquel Jones. And so she did something about it the next season. So that's what we're talking about. When it comes to things that are controversial, people are going to interpret them a lot of different ways, and there's validity in the conversation, and it brings things to light that need to be discussed, like officiating, like should you be judging other people's locker rooms if you've never been in them? Because Kelsey Plum ain't never stepped foot in the Liberty locker room, or at least shouldn't have. So there you go. Anyway, but let's hear what JJ had to say and how she set the record straight with regard to what was said. Hold on. All right. Whoa. So sorry, y'all. It seems like there was some trouble hearing that, but so we'll have to put that in for our audio listeners after the fact. But basically, what Jonquel Jones goes on to say is that it was a moment. Those are moments that are usually private. She went on to talk about what we just talked about, Brian, that, she talked about 2019 and that Connecticut Sun team being very special, having a great year. And she was giving respect to Minnesota and them having a great year. Now, if it were me, which it was not, would I have said y'all deserved it? I wouldn't have said that. Especially like you win the MVP and then you're going to tell someone else that they deserved it. I don't know. Like that wouldn't have been me. That wouldn't have been me. But again, you're having a moment. What JJ said is that usually those are private moments and that she should have been more aware. The part that got really hard, Brian, and I'm really gutted that I've got like 2 screens here, and so I don't know, the audio was a little janky, so that's that's on me. But she gets really emotional, Brian, because she caught wind of, and I don't know if this is something that came from the Liberty organization or just something that, I'm sure people were tagging her because that happens a lot. But she talked about how she was really disappointed with herself that, and I'm again interpreting this a little bit here because I don't have the video to play, but she talks about being disappointed in herself in what she said because of the impact it had on the Liberty organization. And I think she felt a little bit of guilt if it made the New York Liberty organization look bad. I think she felt guilt for fans feeling like she didn't appreciate the New York Liberty organization. And she also went on to say that it put a damper on the weekend for her, and that it was tough to enjoy the weekend after that. Now, on top of that, compounding that, and maybe perhaps why the emotions were visible, Brian, is because what Jonquel Jones also mentioned when she received her All-Star MVP is that that very day, Saturday, was the memorial for one of her family members back home, and that while she had the support, of course, of her family to be at All-Star and to compete at All-Star, and that, support got her another MVP, it was also very hard. So that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot to handle for anyone, to the memorial on its own, and then even reacting in a way where you think the fan base of your current team, might not have your back, or you feels like you disrespected them, and New Yorkers, we don't like to be disrespected. So I think, like, either one of those could be a lot, but to have both at the same time, Brian, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, because I think I think we've talked about it a lot here. Like whenever you say something in public, the words no longer belong to you; it belongs to the world, and the world can interpret it however it comes out, even if you had the best intention in heart. And I think for JJ, she knowing her, she didn't mean anything by it, and it wasn't meant as like disrespect. But I think a lot of fans were, I think, annoyed, which is their right. And also it's like, damn, like, yo, we've been riding for this team for a long time. We've been riding with you. We've been riding with this whole group then to now. And it's like, geez, Louise, like that. And it's like, oh, that's where sometimes the words have the words no longer, once the words no longer belong to you, you can't control how the impact feels to other people. And I think especially for a fan who's like, oh geez, it's like that, damn, why am I investing my effort, my resources, my time, and my money into this if the players don't feel as if the thing they fought so hard to get is like somebody else deserve it, that kind of thing. So I understand that perspective, and I don't want to minimize the fans who were annoyed by seeing the comment. I think it's their right to be annoyed by it, and it's fair. I'm not gonna like begrudge and be like, you shouldn't do that, because like A, I'm not them, and B, people feel how they feel, and I could say something, and even if I have the best of intentions, if it hits someone in a particular way, I can't control that, and I just have to like live with it and then sort of see how conversation flows from there. So I think that's one part. And I think especially I guess the online nature of like everything in life is that once something happens and then someone sees it, it's gonna come to your door, it's gonna come to your front door in every which way possible, whether it be if people are still on Twitter, people are on Blue Sky, people on Threads, Instagram, whatever, you're gonna see that. And even for like fans who see you in person, it's like, wait, yo, what happened here, kind of thing. So there's no real, oh, I said this thing here, no one noticed. It's always going to circle back, because that's just the nature of life in 2026, where everything you do can and will, not to make it law enforcement, but anything you do can and will be used against you in the court of public opinion. So it's hard to sort of like just have a throwaway comment, and even if you didn't think much of it in the moment, where you're just sort of like out with your peers and friends in a environment that's like chill and relax, like everyone's having a good time, everyone's chilling, it's no stress, like getting away from like work itself for like a little, for a few days, like that's cool. But then something that happens at an off work event turns into everything is fully going in your direction. That's really hard to navigate. And I think especially for like for young people, because I think she's younger than me, so I can say young people if you're okay with it. So for young people, it's like, yo, it's coming. There's a relentlessness to hearing negative feedback and criticism. There's no, oh, my boss says, hey, what happened here? It's this person I follow, this stranger, this, and it's relentless and it's nonstop. And I think the last part and the most important part, I think, is, man, grief is hard, man. Like, grief is impossible. I was thinking about it before I came on, like, just having to continue working when people you've known for a long time pass away. And when you know it's coming, or even if you don't know it's coming. Oh, I'll pause, Erica. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I think just thinking about grief in general, grief hits you in so many different ways. And if the person you know is if it's sudden or if you know it's coming, that grief just always captures you and it just takes so much out of you. And knowing that even though you're in a state of sadness and you may not have had the time to fully like sort of sit with your thoughts and feelings because there's more work to be done and there's more things you have to do and accomplish. It makes it really hard. And you just have to like try to figure out the best way you can to sort of pick yourself up. Like, just to briefly divert to myself a little bit, like at the day job, I've lost so many people over the years and you never get good at it. Like, I've been at it for 8 years. And every time it happens, I ask my boss, I'm like, yo, is there a way to handle this like in the proper way? She's like, no, there's no way. There's no way. Like, it just hits you. And then it's like you try to just sort of like carry on as best you can. And then you're thinking about the person who's no longer here, someone you've really known and cared about in such a way. And it's like, man, I just gotta keep going. And sometimes it's just you don't want to keep going. You just want to like stop and sit still with yourself. And it's just like you can't. And it's really hard. And I think especially for public figures like a JJ, I feel the pressure of always having to be sort of on per se. Like, you always got to have the game face on. You got to have you got to have the mask. You got to be on every time people see you, whether it be press like myself and others, whether it be fans walking the streets, whether it's on the court itself. You always have to be sort of like on, and it's really hard to just do that. And then when things are coming at you a million miles an hour, there's no real way to just be like, yo, I just need like a just give me a little time out, something. But it's hard, man. And that grief, man, shit, it hurts, man. I feel like I feel like I don't have an artful way to say grief sucks and it hurts like hell, but it hurts like hell, man.
Yeah, and everyone deals with it differently, I think. And, to say that you can kind of put it on the shelf is a farce. I think it gets easier to deal with over time. You learn different strategies, but it's about coping, it's not like, whoo, yay, I'm better. So yeah, it's tough. And, our hearts go out to anyone who has dealt with that, because that means you're still dealing with it. And I say this all the time, man. Not knowing, if you don't know what that feels like, God bless. I truly don't wish that on anyone. And so I can even look at the chat now. Some of the things that are happening, they're not important. The disagreements, and we are a part of the media, and that's what we do. We analyze things. We talk about controversial things where people have differences of opinion, but to make them beyond what it is, a game, things like what JJ has been going through just on a family perspective, or from a family point of view, puts things into perspective. So, but Winsome, you asked, I think, got the audio figured out now. So we're going to try to play this again. This is Jonquel Jones being asked about what she said on the stream.
You had a little viral moment on the Stud Buds talking about 2024. I just wondered if you wanted to like get into what you meant by that exactly.
In 2019, I feel like we deserved it more than Washington. For sure. And in 2024, y'all deserve it more than us. Of course. Yeah. Remember how close we were? Yeah. I mean, obviously, it was a night out, and traditionally, those are moments that, you can kind of let your guard down a little bit. And I was talking to somebody that, meant a lot to me in terms of as a friend and someone that I've built a relationship over the years. And so, what I said, it didn't really come out in the way that I meant it. What I was just saying is that you can have a team that has a lot of chemistry, that is great on paper, that has had a great season, and it's still not enough to get it done. And that's what I think I was trying to explain to her, with that whole clip. And that's why I brought up the 2019 Connecticut team, was because, we just had a lot of great chemistry, and it kind of felt like it was that one piece to kind of cement us, to kind of keep us together and bring us back together. But obviously, we put our hearts out there on the court in 2024, and I wouldn't want it to finish any other way. I know what it means to our city. I know what it meant to me. And every single player that stepped on the court put their heart into that. And so obviously I feel like what I said was taken the wrong way, and I'll take accountability for that as well, and understand that like I do have a responsibility when I speak to make sure that I'm representing not just myself but our organization in the right way. But it definitely was a gut punch for me. Couldn't really enjoy the weekend. Lord, I'm getting emotional. I'm sorry. I don't know. It just, like I said before, New York means a lot to me. The organization means a lot to me. Our locker room, our chemistry, what we've built. And I just never wanted to misrepresent that. And I never wanted people to ever feel like I was doing anything other than trying to put my best foot forward for our team. So I apologize. Yeah.
I mean, that's tough, right? That's tough to see. That's tough to, I'm sure, experience. And you could tell that it took a toll. I think a part of that is definitely because, like JJ said, there's love for New York and the organization, and to perhaps be a part of something that didn't sit well with the fan base, or maybe beyond. I don't know. I'm not reporting this. I'm saying I don't know if the another Liberty player brought that to her attention. I don't know if the organization, I don't know. And it is what it is at this point. It's one of those things, though. Just seeing that emotion from JJ, it's tough, and it goes to everything that we're talking about, and even the reactions that we see in our chat here today. People are going to take things that you say and go well beyond, and Caitlin Clark falls victim of that as well. I mean, again, it's literally in the chat right now. So it's unfortunate. Even people who are well-meaning or think that they're supporting someone, they make things worse, and they perpetuate false narratives on all sides by not sitting in fact and reality, and not remembering that this is a game.
Yeah.
You don't have to like what JJ said, but to make it like she's the worst thing that has ever come through the New York Liberty organization, like, that's wild. You don't have to like what Caitlin Clark says about things, and that's fine, but she's one heck of a basketball player. And you don't have to like Alyssa Thomas, and we talk about this all the time. Alyssa Thomas is one of the greatest WNBA players that exist currently, for sure. She plays physical game, so but when people take things out of context, it's unfortunate, and it does not do a service to the person or a team that they are saying they're a fan of. And it makes things more difficult for them. Like, one of the moments was Caitlin Clark had a long conversation with the 44th president at the Presidential Center. And, one of the things that he said is, don't let all of this get you down, and Clark was asked about that as well. Because it's a lot. And, people say things that are, again, like I said, controversial, a little off-putting. But they're discussions. I probably wouldn't have said what JJ said. I definitely would have. But also, what I'm not a finals MVP. I'm not an all-star MVP. I'm not a Commissioner's Cup MVP. And something that we talked about in the lead up to that 24 run, and even in 23, it was a big storyline, is JJ wanted to help that Liberty team get over the hump, because she knew what it felt like to not. Over and over and over with Connecticut. And so, what's wild to me is that so many people say, oh, this is where I do disagree, not just with JJ, but with a lot of people, not just in sport, but in life. The term deserve is a little tough for me.
Yeah.
That's a little tough, because there are a lot of things that if life were fair, if people treated other people like human beings, if people were honest, if people were forthcoming, if people were empathetic, you know, fairness, shoulda, coulda, woulda versus reality, completely different. There are people who do deplorable things and they become president of the United States. There are people who try to do good and they get shot down for going to school. So I don't know, you know, and I'm someone who likes to think that she believes in fair, but you know, also what does that even mean? What does deserve mean? What does fair mean? The world is a hard place to live in. And there's also still beauty, which is really, I mean, that's what makes life hard. Is because you see these beautiful moments and then you have to deal with all of the muck in the in between, you know, and I think that's what we saw with JJ. So you know, I don't know if this event, including everything with the memorial, I believe it was an aunt of hers. I don't know if that, the weight of all of this at All-Star is going to impact JJ coming out, because something that we've talked about a lot on the show, Brian, is JJ, and there's a stat for this, right? You know, when JJ gets a double-double, this team, the New York Liberty, is exponentially better.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times where she'll get a double-double and the team kind of wastes it, right? But there are other times where JJ doesn't necessarily enforce it as much as I think that she can with her skill set. So, you know, let's just go assuming that Jonquel Jones is going to, you know, decide to play, and it's completely her right if she wants to spend time with family. I understand that. We don't know what is going to happen right now, but assuming that, you know, Jonquel Jones is available for all of the games and the rest of the season, Brian, you know, what do you want to see from Jones, and what is the best version of the New York Liberty, and what is the best version of Jonquel Jones to get to the best version of New York?
Yeah, so I think it's going to tie into a criticism people have of JJ, and it's that she camps out with the perimeter too much. Like every time in Slack, every time like in our Slack channel, every time they see people talking, it's like, why she not in the block? Why she not cooking up down there? And then I think my brain is more like, I like it when JJ is on the wing and starting there, because when she backs down, starting from the perimeter, she has so much more room to work with. Whereas if it's, you know, the traditional get in the block, throw it in there, it's more hands and more clogged, more sort of like you're in a phone booth in that way. And JJ has a questionable whistle, we'll say. Questionable is a good word. So that way she does that way. Kathy doesn't try to take some money out of her pockets. We'll say questionable. So she has a rough whistle, and it's a situation where if you're able to get her in room with more room to operate, I think it makes life a lot easier for her, because JJ can back you down. She has a good handle as a big. When she's at the rim, she's automatic. So if she gathers and goes up and doesn't, and Erica, she stopped doing the thing you were mad about in 2023, where it's like she'd bring the ball down after the old board. It's more like go right up. She gets it right up. She's better at these days.
Does someone on the staff watch the program? Because we talked about that, and then after I went in on that, it didn't happen no more. Am I, you know, deliriously and delusionally giving credit to us for doing that? Probably, and by
damn
probably,
right,
yes.
damn right. We did
However,
that.
I said what I said, right?
Yeah.
I said what I said, and that got fixed, because it's been a JJ staple for a little while. That power dribble. We don't need the power dribble. So I'm manifesting also the underhand pass we can get rid of. Okay.
There was one funny moment last year. A friend of ours who was on press row, JJ, I think she threw it like between her legs, and then it went out of bounds, and then he hit the table, and the table fell up. Like, God dang, what's happening here? And because it was like, it ruined the rally they were trying to have, and I'm like, oh no, what's with the fanciness? No cool plays. Just do the basics, please. You're trying to rally here. So it's one of those things where these sort of like the extra flair, if you want to call it that, that's like, it's more, I'm gonna get right down to business, and I'm gonna make it happen the way it's supposed to be done. So I feel like that part is very valuable, and I think starting with tomorrow night's game, it's a unique opportunity because the Sparks are such a poor interior defensive team. They last I checked, I believe they allow teams to shoot 69.1% inside the restricted area, highest in the WNBA. So for the group tomorrow night in particular, it's a hey, we got to get in the paint, we got to get inside. The Sparks defense has so much trouble as it is. They're an organization in flux, so who knows who's going to be on that team by the trade deadline? Who knows who's going to be in charge in the offseason? Who knows so many things about that team, from like the roster, the head coaching. There's so much chaos around them that we haven't talked about enough as a national WNBA community. So for the Liberty, and also they need some get back because they tricked off a game on Sunday Night Basketball and it ended with NECA having the shot of the year. Lisa Leslie, everybody coming on the court to celebrate in Staples Center because y'all done let up a 17-point second half lead. That needs to not happen again. I'll tell you that right now. If you get a lead, stay on it.
Don't give NECA no more records. We know we're not doing it. We're not doing it. I mean, we have the stats here. We have the stats here for this game. You can see the head-to-head. You know, the New York Liberty don't really have that much of an advantage when it comes to points per game here. And the same with rebounding. I think where this gets interesting is, you know, what are we going to see when it comes to 3-point shooting, the advantage for the Liberty? It's not as high as I would like to see it, but I think also turnovers are pretty high for both of these teams. So who's going to protect the basketball? But you mentioned, you know, trade deadline. And we have to come back to it. We went super long and we're a third of the way to how long we went on our last podcast. But, you know, we talked about this. The trade value for me for Betnijah Laney-Hamilton seems to be low. We talked about that on our last episode pre-All-Star. And Brian, I mean, are we going to see another DNP for Betnijah Laney-Hamilton? And should we see another DNP for Betnijah Laney-Hamilton?
Should we? No, I don't think you should, because like Leo is recovering. Like she's making her way back, and Leo's not going to be available tomorrow. Satu is making her way back, and she's, I guess, in reconditioning. Like they've been bad at communicating that, and I'll just say this here. Like I've said that in that building directly. So this isn't me just sort of like saying it here. I'm like, hey, the communication is pretty bad. Like, do better at it. And hey, how about we do better at that? And to Melo's point, we don't know. Leo doesn't know either. And that's one of those things where we talk so much about communication on the court. That's where communication off the court has to be sharp too, because now everyone is like, the fan base gets nervous. Like I was talking about the building getting nervous all the time. And now that, you know, the connective tissue that is Leonie Febick and what she brings to this franchise and this team, now that that's not here, you don't know for how long and how much longer. It's one of those things where if we had like a more crystal timeline, I think it would ease everyone's tension and at least give a better feel as to what may be coming. So, but that's another conversation. I might save that for when everybody is back in town. So remind me about that in a couple weeks on that front. But to be in particular, I think there's value in playing her. I just can't. My basketball brain just won't let me see a player that helped you win a championship on one leg can't contribute to this team. I feel that because we talk so much about the Liberty, like I think we talked about it last week. They had so many breaks in the zone where it's like, oh, how is Awakaware flashing wide open in the paint? What's going on here? So many times where it's like, not enough talking, not enough yapping, not enough. And it's like you have a player whose presence commands attention. Like if you're in a practice when Betnijah sort of like captaining everything and sort of like leading the way, like her voice booms in that building. Like she gets there, everyone is where they need to be when Betnijah is pointing it out. And I feel like that is especially valuable for a team that often lets go of the rope. Like that LA game, they let go of the rope, and 100%. You need to not let go of the rope, and you need someone that sort of like keeps you like locked in focus. The coach can yell at you all he wants, and the staff can yell all they want, but it's different when your colleague who's on the floor with you is like, hey, you need to be right there. You need to follow this instruction that's given to you, and you need to not make these mistakes. And I think having a player like Laney-Hamilton, who demands a lot of herself and puts a lot and expects a lot of her teammates too, it helps build that chemistry even more. Because I think the group is pretty connected. Like they all work hard. They all do the things they're supposed to. And having that person on the court who's like, okay, Pauline, you're here. Sab, we're running this. Honey, we're doing this. It helps a lot. And I think that's what like keeps everything organized for the group. And I feel they need more of that, because the road from now to FIBA is not going to be easy. It's going to be a full sprint, and then it's a pause. And then when everybody comes back September 17, it's baby, we on the road to the playoffs, baby. Everybody, this is it. Lock in right now. So you want to get that work done early. And honestly, that 15-12 should really be 18-9 at minimum, if not better. So it's hey.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I agree with you. Get the work done early, but the part of me that's like, especially with Washington.
Young.
Let me put it this way. In what world does Asia Wilson drop, and she's a 4-time MVP, just to clear up the stats and the facts in the chat. So get your numbers right. She's a 4-time MVP, drops 38 points, and the Vegas Aces lose to the 8th seed by 1 point. And we talked about this on our last episode. It is not a foregone conclusion that this New York Liberty squad is going to make the playoffs. Not when Washington's doing what they're doing. When Washington is doing what they're doing. And the LA Sparks is a team. The New York Liberty, it's right up here on the screen. The New York Liberty blew a 17-point lead to lose off a Nneka Ogwumike 3-pointer. This team has not been great and has not only not done their work early, as in the first half of the season, but they're not closing out games. Now, what I do find interesting, Brian, is because they've had 2 games now, right, where it comes down to the wire. And you're like, all right, Erica, but like, chill, man. They got their last 2 wins, the OT win against Dallas in Dallas, and then a game against Chicago, where and also thank you. I think it was Jeff. Thank you for commenting. I did get a fresh haircut. Thank you very much. I was on my way back from my hair appointment with Miss Diane, and I was like, oh man, only 30 seconds left, or like 36 seconds left. It looks, I was, Brian, and anyone in our Slack channel, I was like, I can't believe we lost to not 1, but 2 former point guards for the New York Liberty. Because I also saw the comment in the chat about we need Courtney Vandersloot. And we've been talking about this. I was like, oh, hell no way. And then Brian comes on talking about Jingle Jangle. And when he said that, that's how I knew that Sabrina Ionescu pulled off some magic. Now, on the one hand, I love it. Sabrina came in hot in the 4th quarter, or in the final frame in overtime in Dallas, 4th quarter, specifically it was just over 30 seconds, 9 points in less than 40 seconds. What?
That's so
like,
bold.
I love to see that. And this is my observation, and maybe also me just articulating what I almost hope is the case. So I'm not reporting this. But Brian, based on all of the things and how I've stated that I'm not giving the benefit of the doubt to this coaching staff anymore, to me, those 2 wins are about these players deciding that they're going to do whatever it takes and by any means necessary, and not because the coaching has gotten better since our critique. Because that Indiana Fever game, to me, was terrible coaching from New York. Terrible coaching from New York. And I honestly don't think that it's gotten better. I think the players have decided that they don't want to lose.
Interesting there. I'd say it's kind of like hand in hand. Because like it's like I remember in postgame, I think we shared it on our socials. Lucas had asked Beck Allen if the defense they played down the stretch is something that can be replicated across all
Hold on.
40.
I'm sorry, Brian. Hold on.
Oh no.
Damien. We literally host a weekly podcast about the New York Liberty. So if you want us to move on, then you could just change the channel. That's what we're here for. So move on from what, fam? The season's not over. And even when the season is over, we're gonna come at you every other week because that's what we do. I don't understand this throw in the towel mentality, you know, like that's crazy to me. But anyway, like what?
What you want us to leave our beautiful home to where should we go?
Oh my goodness.
Hey,
Listen, you can get out of Dodge if you want to, fam, but like come on. And here's the wild thing, Damien, you show up too. So you're not really trying to we love it, but like I can get down and we could disagree because we're not lowering the rims.
Yeah.
But come on, like when you make comments like that, bro, like what do you expect? What do you expect? You know what I'm saying? But anyway,
we move it. You moving with us. What you talking
that's
about?
what I'm talking about.
Hey.
You know what? It's just the curmudgeon auntie, which I probably am. That's in the back, but is in the van, in the back of the van, complaining about every little thing, but is still going to the family vacation. Oh, but you here, right? Okay, that's what I thought. Like, but anyway, I'm sorry, Brian.
Also, Sharice makes a great point, and I'll come back to that in a minute. We were asking Beck Allen in post game if the defense that they played down the stretch it can be replicated across all 40, and she gave an interesting answer. She was talking about how the coaching staff is sort of like direct them to see like be a little bit more aggressive in some coverages. I have to. I think we have it on our socials. I'll circle back on it, but it was a really fascinating answer, and I think this is where I think to shoot a little bit of bail for the coaching staff, because I feel, Erica, we're different on the coaching staff at this point. I think to shoot bail a little bit and to sort of like give a little bit of praise where it's due. I think the reinsertion of Beck Allen is, I think, a win for the group because you don't have Leo's length, but Beck Allen, when everything is going well, she gives you something that's like a little bit approximate to that. And I think this group needs it. And I think having the length that she does, and I think also on the other side, I feel for Beck early on in the season when she got the ball, it was more, she wasn't as like assertive as she needed to be because Beck G and Beck A, really good cutters, timely cutters. Some Beck Allen can finish at the rim pretty well, same for Beck G. So having a player with the length of Allen and someone that is, when they are aggressive, is useful. Like we, you know, it helps a lot. And I think that's where the coach staff is like, okay, Beck, when you're open, you need to shoot. Because for Leia, when she's on the court, when she gets an open corner three, that thing is going up and that thing is going in. And that's the difference from 2025. And I feel like that's where the players and stuff like you need to shoot. Like if you're open, trust it, get that thing up there. We live with the result. I feel like that. I think that matters a lot. And so it gets part two. And to Jeff Blaze's comment, first of all, and to Sharice's comment as well, I do. I think having Sabrina on ball a little bit more has helped a lot because the fourth quarter, Dallas in overtime, she was like, because even in the postgame, she's like, man, I knew it was gonna hit. I knew it was coming. It felt good. And then it hit finally. And then throughout that game against Chicago, it's like, okay, this is really good flow. This is a good process. You're getting downhill. You're taking good shots. And I feel at the end it's okay. I got to get up there. You draw contact. You do what you need to do. And that's where the strength. I think that's where the strength that she's built across her 6 years as a professional have come in, like finishing over Azare in traffic, powering through to get a 4-point play. Doing those things matters a lot. And I feel that's the work manifesting for Sabrina. And I feel that's just an entire part of her basketball journey from heralded rookie to now solid all-star caliber player in this league. And I think that part is a huge testament to her dedication.
Yeah, I want to go back to Rebecca Allen. I've talked about it clear as day. I don't agree with a lot of the fan base, and honestly, even the Chicago fan base about Rebecca Allen. I'll always ride with Rebecca Allen, and so I hear what you're saying as far as the coaching staff. However, when you have an available Betnijah Laney-Hamilton and you have an available Rebecca Allen, you utilize them both. It's not a one or the other, because Rebecca Allen, and I do agree, we just had the comment up there with Sharice that the defense is better. And I've talked about that for years, Brian, since we started the show together. I've talked about Rebecca Allen in New York, spending time in the locker room, because haters apparently think that I've never been a beat writer, which is not true, and that I've never been in a locker room. And you know who you are, and I know who you are too. Anyway,
Cool.
hey, listen. But anyway, haters gonna hate. But listen, I've had those conversations with Rebecca Allen, and to your point, she has gotten a lot stronger. She's not the greatest defender, and definitely not the greatest defender on the New York Liberty. And there's value in having a Rebecca Allen on this team. That being said, Brian, I still think it's a problem when the coaching staff decides to ride Rebecca Allen for all of those minutes, when in theory you could have Rebecca Allen and Betnijah Laney-Hamilton. And you know why that's important? Because they've been winning 1-point games, Brian. You know what that tells me? That they're not getting enough defensive stops. You know who's on the bench and can give you defensive stops, even if her minutes are limited? Betnijah Laney-Hamilton. So I'm not giving any freaking kudos and credits for something that, first of all, should have been happening earlier. Because as much as we're asking about Betnijah Laney-Hamilton, when Rebecca Allen came out of reconditioning, it was still unclear why she wasn't in the rotation. And so now you're putting Rebecca Allen in the rotation, and I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with you telling us that you can't play everyone, and you literally have played everyone but Betnijah Laney-Hamilton in 2 games back-to-back that you win in dramatic fashion because your players are elite level players, not because, in my estimation, you were serious about getting defensive stops. Because if you're serious about getting defensive stops, then there's no way Betnijah Laney-Hamilton has as many DNPs as she does. So unless she's hurt, and you're not saying that she's hurt, for what reason, I know not, because we have development players, which have also played before Betnijah Laney-Hamilton. We have 7-day contracts. The Liberty would not be, even with Betnijah Laney-Hamilton. Well, maybe if they put her on that thing, they would be eligible for a 7-day contract, but you're not doing that. So if she's not hurt and you're winning games barely, make it make sense. Mm-hmm. So I'm not giving the coaching staff credit for something that they should have done, that being Rebecca Allen's minutes, a long time ago. If anything, this is not me reporting, I'm just saying, some people might see that as a little petty. Like, I think it's wild to play a development player over someone who you are paying $400,000. And if that player is not hurt, and listen, Brian, people in the chat who've been here since the beginning of this season know I had a lot of questions about the health of Betnijah Laney-Hamilton. My big, bold prediction was that Leonie Fibic would be in the starting lineup sooner rather than later, and that Betnijah Laney-Hamilton would not be a starter for the New York Liberty, because I was at training camp with you. I was at, the preseason with you, and I saw it right away. Betnijah Laney-Hamilton was not going to be a long-term starter for this team. The reason she started to begin with is because Leonie Fibic wasn't available, because Sabrina Ionescu also had an injury. There were spaces, and that veteran player needed to take that space. Now, if we had seen Betnijah Laney-Hamilton come off of the bench and someone else start in her stead in the beginning of the season, I also would have been okay with that. That needed to happen. I clocked that early. That needed to happen. She got injured. She was out for personal reasons, and that changed a lot of things for the New York Liberty. But now, again, unless there's something happening that they're not communicating, and you've already talked about how things aren't being communicated particularly well, unless with all things being as we know them to be true, that she is healthy, that she is available, I don't understand the DNPs.
Yeah, that's where, even if the player isn't 2021 All-Star, 2023 engine to championship run team, it's still, the brain is still there. The brain never leaves, and you need the on-court communication. You need that. So that's where I think so. To Sharice's point, heck if I know. I'm gonna assume yes at some point, because I think there will be a situation where it necessitates it. And I think, to Laney-Hamilton's eternal credit, she's someone that is always ready. Like, I see her in warm-ups. She's doing what she needs to do. She's working with Andrew Witt. She's doing all the things that are required of a player of her stature, to be on top of things and then do it like that. I feel, to Jem's point, first and foremost, I think this is where I think, Erica, we see it a little bit differently, to where where I understand that you can't play everyone a piece, because I see what Jem is saying here. But I think between Allen, Gardner, and Laney-Hamilton, I feel, of the three of them in particular, and I want to isolate them, I feel Gardner is the odd player out, and I think that's okay. And I feel like I'm okay with that. I think that's where you have to almost assume that you're not going to be getting Sabally and Fiebig back in a while, if not so after the World Cup in Germany from August to September. So I feel you essentially have a month to iron out a rotation, and you need to get that done pretty quickly. And I think with the pressure, and I think with the advanced timeline of this stretch leading up to the World Cup, is going to necessitate that. And I think really Thursday against Vegas, we'll sort of see what the full rotation looks like, assuming everyone who's here is going to be here and healthy for this stretch going into August and the World Cup. And to Sharice's point, I
just want to read this comment because I thought it was really funny. And also for our audio listeners, I know you can't see the screen, so I want to read the comment. Sharice saying, I feel like Betnijah Laney-Hamilton don't fit DeMarco's playing style, even though he doesn't have one currently. I thought that was hilarious, the second part. And I don't know, but are you going to and I talked about this on the last stream, right, Brian? Committing to your system is one thing. Committing to your system after you hit the iceberg, and after you ran out of lifeboats, and after the ship breaks in half, that's a choice. That's a choice. And I just don't think it's the right one for the sake of everyone else. So okay, Betnijah Laney doesn't fit into the system. So then it goes back to, again, Brian, what we've talked about with this New York Liberty squad. Why have a coach and a system that isn't going to work with a 400K player that you prioritize bringing back, presumably?
Yeah, because I think, I see Sharice's comment, and I'm like, firstly, hello, Willie. First round exit. I don't think so, but
I think it's bold to assume they're going to make the playoffs.
So two parts there before I get back to Sharice. First round exit depends. Playoffs, I think, is a yes. I think they have enough room, and I think the bottom of everybody below Washington, I have serious questions about, and I have questions as to what their rosters will look like in about a week and a half. So that's one big thing there. And then to crash out Willie's comment, I think it's matchup dependent on everybody, because I'm just thinking last year, Minnesota had a lot of success against Golden State, but then they ran into a bad matchup at Phoenix, and then everybody got hurt, and then it's over. Vegas, they barely got through Seattle, and Seattle looked like they were dead in the water when the playoffs hit, and then it's oh God, but we lose in game 2, and then oh my God, we're down to the final seconds in game 3. So it's hard to sort of matchups are so difficult to sort of ascertain. Atlanta had a great run last year, then they ran into a bad matchup in Indiana, and then their flaws down the stretch of the fourth quarter, which was their weakness, so shine through in the worst moment. And then Kelsey Mitchell, AB, two players who really elevate their games down the stretch of games, pick things up, and then that was the difference. So matchups. But we're gonna circle back to that in October. So I wouldn't say first round exit. My brain says deep run. Erica is the doubting Ellie in the room, but I'm gonna get Erica there with me by hook or by crook. These jokers are gonna get the job done, and Erica, we will be traveling across this this nation. Wonderful, not so wonderful, but traveling across this nation for America's #1 network and others. It will happen.
Okay. I want to address this here. First of all, did you just hear this man tell me that he's going to make me do something? Okay, good luck. So you couldn't have said that because now you're done. Now you're done. Ain't no way. And I'll take that L to the grave. So that you messed up, Brian. That's where you messed up. Now you got me agreeing with Damien. And
no.
See. Why you do that? They got the Liberty have a lot to prove. The coaching staff has the most to prove for me. I was already questioning it. We've talked about this. There are 2 times where the New York Liberty hired a first-time WNBA head coach, and both times I thought it was a terrible idea. And I wasn't wrong about the first one. So, it almost makes you wonder how, if we think of Walt Hopkins and Chris DeMarco and kind of the prototype that is, there are parallels. They're not the same person, but there are parallels there. It almost makes you wonder, how did Sandy get sandwiched? That's what I was trying to say. How did Sandy Brondello get sandwiched in between? Because she's the opposite. She's the perpendicular path. She does not run parallel to either one of those coaches. With her history, her accolades, her style, her communication with players. So how is it that the organization got Sandy Brondello and then these 2 coaches that seem polar opposite of Sandy? Like, was that really a GM choice? Was that there's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th? I don't know. Choices were not available. I don't know. But now I'm questioning how Sandy even got to New York, because I did think that was the right call at the time. And I mean, if banners mean anything, if rings mean anything, then there you go. But now I'm like, how did that even happen? If what we're getting, another kind of basketball genius, right? In Chris DeMarco. And I say that because I do think that there is a vision. What's missing from the execution is being nimble. Who plans for their starting lineup to be decimated? Nobody, except you probably should. And what I mean is, do you expect that to happen? I should have said, do you expect that to happen? Nobody expects that to happen, right? But you have to prepare for it because injuries happen all the time. It's basketball. So if you didn't prepare for injuries, if you didn't plan for a contingency, then that's also a reflection of coaching. Now, to the extent how long people are out, who's out at the same time, when people return, you cannot control those things, but you have to prepare for them. It's professional sports. And for me, I think what is the biggest folly right now of Chris DeMarco as a head coach is that he seems too rigid to a plan that's clearly not going to work right now. And the ability to pivot, as Ross might have said, it just seems to be falling by the wayside. I don't know if it's there. And that's going to be a problem. I think it's already a problem for the New York Liberty. If you can't manage through the ups and downs of a WNBA season, and this is why I say WNBA experience makes a world of a difference. WNBA coaches who are elite are doing more with less and always have been, even with a new CBA, doing more with less. You've been a head assistant for a championship Warriors team for over a decade, and now you're going to be able to maneuver the hot mess that often is the WNBA on top of trying to get a championship caliber team out the gate on top of it being your first year. That sounds like a recipe that was not necessarily set up for success. Can it be done? Sure. But it's a lot to ask of a first-time head coach. And if you're not nimble, if you're not communicative, if you're not collaborative, I mean, that's a choice, but then you gotta own it.
No, it's fair. And I think for the new folks who are in the room, Erica has been on this beat for a long time. Like Erica's been consistent on this. So it's not the result that is leading to the critique there. It's the hey, this is the feeling I've had all the way through. And also many made comments focus on communities from the season.
Read it so the audio folks can hear you.
Oh, gotcha. Me, mumble man, bad man. So communicate. From Gem, Betnijah made comments about Chris not liking middies early in the season. The mid-range is where B has always operated, and all of the top 14 of the top 14 to league currently playing the mid-range. That's where Gem has tapped into a really fascinating part of like basketball the sort of basketball of it all, from like the men's game, the women's game, overseas game, and everything in between. I feel like it's not a renaissance per se, but I feel like teams are starting to appreciate the mid-range a little bit more, and those floaters in particular. Like I'll use Sabrina as a great example. Like one of the things with Sab a ton that she did a lot last year, Erica, we spent like a month talking about it. Those floaters in the paint. Every time she's coming downhill on the pick and roll, it's a floater from like 13 feet, sometimes 15 feet. And it's like, it was hitting so much early on. And then afterwards, it's like, hey, you taking too many floaters. Take that extra step and get to the rim. So I feel like we're in such a fascinating dynamic where teams do everything as far as like strategy. So like give up those paint touches and those paint attempts. So you have to make offense from the things that are available to you if you can't get to that first spot. And a lot of times it is those short elbow jumpers, those mid-range jumpers. And I feel like that's where the sort of push and pull of where we as a basketball community are thinking and coming together. And I think that's just across the board. Because I think, someone put Natalie in the comments, like Golden State, like the question that I feel like for as excellent as they have been, a sort of like criticism underneath for the Valkyries is who's going to be that player when it's goal time that can just, hey, we're all in full.
Gabby Williams.
Yeah.
Kayla Thornton.
KT to just like, hey, I like
Burton.
Not to like not succeed, because I think they're all excellent players, but it's almost like here's the ball, get me 2 or 3 and let's make it shake. Gabby has been doing that, and Gabby talked to us about it when she was in New York. But my brain is like, I gotta see it from somebody. Like I gotta really.
Gabby Williams. Gabby, did you watch the 2020? I know the answer to this. Did you watch the Paris Olympics?
I know. I love me some Gabby. I know.
Okay, so here's the thing. Gabby Williams is finally playing a role closest to what she plays for the French national team. And I said this even when she came to Seattle, that was my hope. Unfortunately, that Seattle team, and likely because there seemed to be a butting of heads between the head coach or the coaching staff and the front office, Gabby Williams almost like a Betnijah Laney-Hamilton, except the opposite result. Gabby Williams was overused in certain areas and was not able to show the full repertoire. Betnijah Laney-Hamilton also not able to show the full repertoire, but because she's being criminally underused. You don't want to start her? Fine. You want to play her only 5 minutes? Fine. But to not play Betnijah Laney-Hamilton at all makes no sense. That makes no sense. Then just give us the trade. Why did you sign? But again, to me, that's clear as day that the coaching staff and the front office are not on the same page. When it comes to Gabby Williams needed to be that defender, and there were too many players that effectively all played similar positions and didn't have enough range to pull off a 3 to 5 sweep like Gabby can. mostly on the defensive side. But Nneka Ogwumike is not a stretch player, and it's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think Nneka is a solid 4. A solid 4, and has been her whole career. She's not a 5, and she's not a 3. So if you need versatility and you're not playing your number 2 pick in Dominique Malunga, which now looks like the stupidest thing that I've ever seen in my life. And you know what else? This is why I'm getting mad. And this is not even our Seattle's podcast, because how many times did I say, I might as well put it on my forehead at this point, because some of y'all know where I'm going with this. When you have the number 2 pick, you play the number 2 pick. And so when in not playing Dominique Malunga, then now who has to play those minutes on both sides of the ball and is not necessarily known for being a rim protector, or I should say more of a shot blocker? Gabby Williams. So you have Gabby Williams taking on roles that are not meant for her, but that she can do defensively. That's not happening for Gabby anymore. She's playing, and I literally spoke to her about this on Saturday, and we'll have the clip on Thursday for Tempestagi Talk.
Yeah,
so like I had to go on a mini rant there, Brian, because I'm like, Gabby that's why they got Gabby. And Gabby doing what she can do, Veronica doing what she can do, is opening up other players. That's why the Valkyries are one of the top 3-point shooting teams. Yeah. And you want to run them off the line? You gonna let Gabby blow by you? You're gonna let Burton blow by you? But again, I'm just talking about player versatility, reading the game. If you have a system where the reads are too ambiguous, or you have a system that is too ambiguous, or a system that's too rigid, or I really think the case is rotations that are too rigid, are you trying to prove a point, or are you trying to win the game? I don't know what the answer is for New York, and that's the problem, Brian.
I can see it, and I think I'm also thinking about just the rotations broadly, and I think especially, I think it's all those new from K-Lang, all those new age coaches are anti-midi, Golden State, Phoenix Atlanta, etc. Yeah, and I think that's where, as we're mentioning up top, like that's where the sort of push and pull of basketball broadly, not just a New York specific context.
I'll be a hater in the comments today. France still lost. Okay.
Also,
okay, but you know, USA barely won.
Erica, and to Alpage's point, our friend in Seattle, it might be some trouble for the red, white, and blue in a couple of years, the way she's going. But that is for Tempestagi Talk, and also that will be for Black Rosie Media, who will be on the scene in the 2020 Olympics, delivering the very best basketball coverage known to man. That's it.
That's it. I want to get to Jeff's trade idea. Gabby Williams is not an all-star. Yeah, she literally was. She was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And my fans,
okay.
yeah. And to sort of like jump back to K-Lang's point, I think that's where it's where the fascinating it's where the sort of like fascinating part of basketball for me comes into play, where it's like everybody's gearing up to take away the best shots, which are like rim attempts and corner threes. Everyone is like, oh hey, if we don't give up those, we'll live with whatever. And I think for Atlanta last year, and I think this is where we have to sort of see where Carl Smesko and that team are come playoff time, whereas they lived so much from the 3-point line, and then when they would go cold, everything would just fall apart. We have to sort of see what it looks like for them now, because because the league is getting better every single year. There really aren't any sort of like easy nights at the office. Like the Storm are at the bottom of the standings, but that is not an easy night at the office. Like,
not at all.
You mess around, Dom Malong is giving you 30 and 14, right on your head,
right down to the wire, like a Shaka song. Like, you know what I'm saying? Come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the competition is getting better across the board, and with teams all locked in to sort of taking away certain type of shots, you have to sort of figure out how to maneuver to get it or make the most of the things that are available to you. And I think for this Liberty group, that's where having a player like Brandon Stewart who can operate at the elbow and get those those short jumpers whenever the moment calls. That's where having a player like a JJ who can do these things at such a high level. Like, she's been used more as a pick and roll player this year, sort of similar to the MVP season in Connecticut. So this is where the sort of like the push and pull of basketball and just sort of like thinking of how to make things work, that's where the fun really comes into play. And I think that's where you see the league getting so much better across the board. And you see the talent.
Right.
It's like, oh, cool. This is okay. Right. Atlanta. Here. Oh, they're taking this away from us. Oh, Golden State, they're taking this away from us. Oh, no threes tonight. Okay, Gabby, get to the cup.
And that's my point, Brian. You're right. We're getting to the fun part of basketball. And it's only fun if your coaching staff knows what to do.
True.
I don't know what else to say. Homie. Like, matter of fact, I'm not going to say anything. Because I've already said what I had to say. Brian, I want to ask you this. Because New York is a top 8 team right now. Out of the top 8 teams, and as of right now, let's assume for a moment that the season ends right now. New York Liberty would make the playoffs. I'm going to pull it up so we're going to go line by line. Okay? Gotcha. So there's 7 other coaches, 7 other teams. I want you to tell me round 1, round 2, semis, finals, who is Chris DeMarco out coaching? Cheryl Reeve?
No.
Natalie Nakase?
Highly unlikely.
Becky Hammond?
I don't think so.
Jose Fernandez?
Rookie head coach to be determined. And also
that's a no. Don't that's a no. No. I say no. Stephanie White?
I don't think so. Like,
no. Carl Semesco? No, not. It's a no. It's a no. And Sydney Johnson?
I love me some Sid Johnson, so I'm saying no on general principle.
The point is, he cannot outcoach any of the other top 7 coaches. And you just said that it comes down to coaching. And this is where things start getting funky. So... what? Where? In what world? In what world is this a successful hire? In what world is this a successful season? Now, could I be wrong? And yes, Alpage, you absolutely right. I did call you a hater, and I have the receipts. Not you. Listen how y'all do me. This is how y'all do me. Not you throwing Emma Messiman in my face. Well, you were wrong about Emma, so I'm okay with you going 0-2 in back-to-back seasons.
Hey.
That was hilarious. Hey. I was like, wow, shots fired on my own podcast. On my own. This is why Al, I did call you a hater.
A kidney punch. Those hurt. Kidney.
I'm like, dang, man. I'm catching strays. And I absolutely was wrong about Emma Messiman. But also, was I though? I said what Emma told me. She said she wasn't coming. And then, the New York made it. Now, see, this is another thing we could talk about, because bringing Emma Messiman over and still not utilizing Emma Messiman the right way, that's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. But yeah, Al, come on now. Dang, throwing that in my face. Just because you're right don't mean I gotta like it. Golly, my goodness. I mean, all right, so the chat, come on, Brian. Like, what are we talking about? We not making it out the first round if we don't finish top 5 this season. Agreed.
I think
Melo's saying exactly. That's the problem. There's no one in this top 8 that I confidently in a series feel like Chris DeMarco is going to outcoach. Portland Fire, they're a little hit or miss. Sandy has a team. Sandy can outcoach Chris DeMarco. And some key players missing right there. I would say Roberts is probably a good head-to-head. I don't know what to say about Phoenix this year. I really don't. I really don't. Tyler, I think Chris DeMarco should be able to keep pace there, but I'm not confident with it. You know? And then you've got Connecticut and Seattle, I think also could be a toss-up. Seattle, both of these teams are in drastically different places. I think we've got to still figure out where Sonia is at. In Connecticut, I don't know.
For the Sun, I feel like I wish in life we just had like a sim to end button because man,
Allison, and you called me a hater after, so we're even. I don't know about even, but all right.
It's a 7
I will say
game.
all love. I am teasing. I like it, but I'm teasing. And you came at me, and you know what it is? Is like I was like, oh dang, you know. All right. Anyway, sorry, Brian.
Yeah, I feel like I wish in life we had a sim to end button because Connecticut. I feel for that fan base. I feel for those players. Like everything about this year has been so chaotic, and none of it is their fault. Like this is all both NBA and WNBA league office fault this entire season for them. Like they're trying their best. Oh, and also the K-Length boy, they be hard. They're hard on Chris down there, boy. I don't even understand. I like what Jose does.
I like what Jose, like they got on him for those early comments. You know, he was a laughing stock, but was he wrong? Got that team straight together.
He was like, hey, if you complain to me about minutes, sit down somewhere. And he Jose be cooking up, man. I like what he does, and I feel for Dallas. It's like, yeah, man, it's a young group, and they're all figuring it out as they go, and they've got the franchise player. And to Melo's point, I think
Melo's saying, especially when we won't have home court advantage, you don't get a top 4 spot, you don't have home court. Yeah. There's no, I do not see the New York Liberty getting a top 5 spot right now. Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but also, is it?
Because I remember last year, one of the big things that I think we talked about leading up to the postseason was, hey, thank you, Offage. And I'm gonna find myself $1 every time I do this. I keep saying we, and I'm very adamant it is not a we because they do not sign my checks. So every time I do that, I'm just gonna like make a mental note in my notebook to be like, cut it out.
We're gonna have a jar. We're gonna have a jar for you.
me and Marina, the jar gang, if you will. But I think for the group, I think getting to the top 4 is where where the goal should be for the team. I think as of right now, they're 3 games behind Dallas, and I have to check the schedule. I don't think they're done. I think they might be done for the season as far as like individual matchups. So it's 4 because Dallas has tiebreaker currently. So it's going to take a lot of heavy lifting to get there, but I think it's possible. And I think this is where going on a run, and I think having a player like to sort of like circle back up top, having JJ really locked in and powered up in the way that she was going into the break, and Sabrina finding her game again after navigating the early struggles, I feel like, having that is going to be so valuable for this group. And once they're dialed in, everything else almost sort of falls into like a natural rhythm, because if Sabrina is back above average from 3-point range, if she's getting those open looks, if she's getting those things well, getting to the free throw line, there it is. Yeah.
Jangle, let's go.
Yeah. When Sab is locked in as in the way she has been for the past 5 quarters of basketball, it's a wonderful.
Those were the sound of keys, just for our audio listeners. Because I call her Jingle Jangle because she's the key. That was my thing last season.
I feel like next time we see Kobe, I'm just gonna wave my keys in front of him and be like, "So Jonathan, how do you feel about So I think having Sab locked back in the way that she has been is going to mean so much for this group. And it's one of those things where it has to happen. And I think especially, it has to happen because
I think she knows it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things where I think this is where the leadership and maturity of a player comes in, where it's like, okay, I know I got to go get it. I know we're cold right now. I know it's desperation time. I got to get it up there and live with it. And then she did. And I feel having Sabrina empowered in the way she has been the past couple games, because I think it's always I got to make sure everybody gets where they need to go. But then it's, when I get it going myself, it's so intoxicating and exciting And I think that's where experience comes into play. And I think that's where Sabrina having as you gain more years on a job, you gain a greater feel for how things are. And I feel for being 1/2 combo guard, whatever, you get a feel for how things are. And I think Sabrina, to her credit, she never lacks her confidence. If I'm out there, I know I can go get it. So keep getting it, and then everything else falls in accordingly.
Also, I think, there are a few things maybe that pissed her off. I think the last handful of games, whether they were wins or losses, I think that whole 3-point controversy.
Kathy to many enemies.
I mean, like, what? I just don't. Anyway, we'll have to talk about that some other time. But I just think, Sabrina is one of those players that I was wearing, since we were in Chicago, I wore Jordan Brand has a shirt that says, and I took that personally, from The Last Dance.
Yeah.
Great soundtrack. That's one of like the best sports documentary soundtracks. Like, come on, man. Anyway, I think Sabrina's taking a lot personally. I also think she's taking accountability because she heard Stewie take responsibility in that loss. That, to me, that loss to Indiana was all about coaching. And she and JJ took responsibility and made a promise to each other. Stewie and JJ made a promise to each other that it was double doubles, no questions asked, hook or crook, hell or high water, by any means necessary for the rest of the season. And so when you're Sabrina and you're part of that big three, what's your version of that? Now, she hasn't explicitly shared it, but I would be surprised if they haven't all had a conversation and committed. And you know what? That's something that Sandy Brondello had that team do as they went into, I believe it was either 23 or 24, maybe both. But going into that postseason, going into that championship, that finals run, she had every player focus on what they were going to do and how they're going to impact the game. And I get the sense that the big three and maybe a few other players, we need it to be a few other players, are doing just that. Now we're gonna start wrapping up here. So I wanted to come to something that I saw earlier in the chat that is what I can only imagine is a hypothetical trade situation. Brian, I'm gonna let you take first stab at this one. Jeff Blaze saying Maureen Johannes and Betnijah Laney-Hamilton and a pick for Skylar Diggins. You pass or smash that?
Pass. And I'll tell you why. I think for Skylar, it's a situation where she still offers a lot to a team, and she does a lot of good things. I think for this Liberty team, it's hey, do you want to get the ball out of Sabrina's hands? I lean no. I like the combination that Sabrina is running with right now. So I wouldn't want to take the ball out of her hands. And Erica, to your point, you're down on the coaching staff. Do you want to have a player that is as demanding is the wrong word, someone that suffers no fools is a better way to put it, and Skylar Diggins
is going to hold people accountable regardless.
Do you want to like shake up in a big way in that regard by bringing in Skylar, and Skylar having to get acclimated to everything? New team, second team and third team in a year, new city, on the go. Everything is full speed ahead because the FIBA break is coming. So you don't really have time to get acclimated to anything. It's just, oh, hey, here's the ball. Get out there, figure it out. Like I feel like, I think that's why I pass on big trades during the season. I'm like, do it in the wintertime where you get to like settle everything down. And I think to the third piece of it, I feel for the Liberty, they can't afford to send out any more draft picks because they sent out 2 to get Natasha Cloud last year, and now Tosh isn't on the team anymore. So I feel for the Liberty, it's a situation where, you have good developmental talent like Marine Fatu and Mealy, and you have international talent stashed over, but you don't want to burn out your first round draft pick sort of capital. Because even if you're going to be picking low in the draft, you, especially now with the cap rising each year, you want to have a situation where you have players on the cheap, quote unquote, available on your roster. Because if you're paying the top dogs $900K, $1 million plus, you're going to need to hit on the margins and a draft pick exceeding expectations. Because for this group, they're going to have to very soon scale up Leo, because Leo is going to be due in a couple years for a nice pay raise and a well-deserved pay raise at that. So you're going to have to always navigate the cap, and you're going to have to make sure that you're making the absolute most out of the resources available to you. And even though for a team like New York that has a lot of money from the attendance they draw, the things they earn, and the ownership willing to spend, you're still in a hard cap sport. So I think sending picks out at this point in time, unless you're getting like a ready-made young player who can contribute right now on like a rookie second year kind of setup, I would not pick. Yeah, shoulda, woulda, coulda for a lot of things. And to the comments, okay. Fabian mentioned that we should have picked up Sydney Taylor. Man, that Sid has been so good on the Sky. It's a testament to her because she's been balling out, and she was the player who was carrying things for them in the game against the Liberty. And she's someone who's very passionate about winning, and she's someone that is locked in across the whole game, and she's been wonderful, and she'll make the all-rookie team, and she'll deserve it. So, hey, you always wonder, shoulda, woulda, couldas. There's so much great talent in the game of basketball right now. You're bound to miss on a few, and sometimes people just slip through your fingers. It happens like that, but you live and learn, right?
Yeah, well, I want to go back to this hypothetical because I agree with you mostly because it's not like having another guard doesn't solve any problems for this New York Liberty squad, in my estimation. Now that be what your part about the coaching. So what do you think about this? Damian saying, how about Kolb having a meeting with DeMarco, relieving him from his coaching duties, hiring Teresa Weatherspoon, who knows women's basketball, life and winning, problem solved.
To Damian's comment, I feel the sort of like the general theme of criticism, I'd say, across the season is new coaching staff, everything brand new. And you are saying, I think to that comment in particular, it's, oh, hey, we're going to do brand new in August as you're trying to get to the best position possible in the playoff seeding and then postseason and beyond. Would you want to do that in the middle? Like you're flying a plane and then you're bringing in an entire new pilot from like row 35 in the middle seat. Just be like, oh, hey, take over. What? How? Who am I getting? Like, what's my staff going to be? Because I feel Chris has earned the arrows that have been sent his direction. That's fair. Like when you have the talent you have and you're the record you are, like he is going to come your way and it's deserved. I feel and I think this is where I'm like not on an island per se, but I'm like, let's like, I think my brain is saying, would you want to completely overhaul everything now? Like there's never a right time to do it, but if you wanted to do that kind of thing, you do it in the winter. You do it in like when everything is done. Doing it now, I'm like,
I don't know, because I'm trying to decide what I think is more painful. Making a change and there being more motivation, more coordination on this team and them falling short versus knowing that something's not working now and giving the benefit of the doubt just to see it crumble, at the finish line. When again, I am giving credit to if things are getting better for the New York Liberty, I feel strongly that it's coming from the players and their will and the promises they're making to each other, as opposed to a coach that's going to outcoach anyone in the top 8. Yeah, so for me, I think it's just like, I'm not saying do it. And I don't feel great about not doing it because at this point, I don't see for me, and I am not the GM, just to make that evidently clear. I am not now, nor have I ever been, or will I likely ever be a GM for a WNBA team. I am an analyst though, and that is my job. And that's what we do here, is to analyze things. This is how I see things going. And anything short of a championship, I think defines this clearly for me, but especially in certain scenarios. I don't see a way forward where this team can say that they still want to win a championship now with their big 3 and Chris DeMarco is still the head coach. I think those are two different things. I don't think this is a coach that's going to get this New York Liberty squad across the finish line if the goal is championship now. I think if DeMarco is the coach for a hybrid rebuild or any kind of retool, then maybe it's a different conversation. But the expectations that have been set for this roster in this season and Chris DeMarco don't align. And so if the goal is still to win in the immediate, then that's not your coach. If the goal has changed, then that needs to be explicitly stated, and maybe he's the coach. But for me, whether it happens in the middle of the season, I don't have a read on that. Given what I think is going to happen, I don't honestly know that it matters. But because I think that's also setting someone like Teresa Weatherspoon up. So the reason I would say no to that is because that's not a fair shot for Teresa Weatherspoon. Yeah. And if I'm Teaspoon, I'm not taking it. So I don't think that's going to happen for that reason more specifically. But for me, either this team has to admit that they're no longer in the championship window, or they have to move on from Chris DeMarco. I don't see it going any other way.
Because I think to stay on Damian's in particular, like let's sort of like map it out. Let's say you pull the trigger and you do that in particular. It's you have a second-year head coach. And coming in, like, yeah, she's known it and people know her. And it's like, oh, but it's okay. Second-year coach, you are bringing in everything is completely brand new. Assistant coaches, dev coaches, all these kind of things are completely brand new. And you're starting from zero now. And let's say, for example, you pull the trigger, it doesn't work. Then what?
But you're not starting from zero, Brian. You're starting from someone who we talked about at the top of the show has won an MVP in every significant WNBA game you can win. You have a once finals MVP in Breanna Stewart. How many championships? She has 3 championships. Okay. You have Sabrina Ionescu. They're not starting from nothing, Brian. That's us. That's a lot of something. That's a lot of something. If you're going to say they're starting from nothing, that's because the coaching staff is starting from nothing. So you give a starting from nothing coaching staff to an accomplished starting 5. That's incongruent. And what is how I do this? Thank you. I was like, you know how it just doesn't always sound right. Anyway, that is incongruent to me.
Yeah, because I think because my brain is 2 minds here. It's don't like the coach. It's fine. I'm not gonna argue like how you feel either way, but I think starting with a new coaching staff just on the go because I feel if you wanted an experienced head coach, someone with deep experience, I feel like that needed to be the play in the winter time. It wasn't for they have their reasons. They decided where they wanted to go. That's fine. And I think it's a situation where you jettison the first-year head coach, you bring in a second-year head coach with no sort of like room to sort of like navigate because you're doing this in a playoff hunt. And I think even with a talented roster, and even I guess to like take it back to last year, the talented roster fell short in the end for various reasons, but the roster fell short. Now we have the roster. Now you're starting all over. Not starting all over. I want to catch myself saying that, but you're adjusting drivers midstream again. You're doing that this time. Now you have less room for error than you would have had before. And it's, oh, hey, second-year head coach, come on in, get a staff really fast. What's to do? And it's one of those things where even if you wanted to make a head coaching change, you would almost have to do it from someone who's currently here. And I'll read Damian's comment. Oh, you want to take it or should I?
You can go ahead.
Okay. From Damian, I'd rather take a gamble with Teresa Weatherspoon, build with her, than work with someone like DeMarco, who has little to no experience with women's basketball, with no identity or plan that can help. I hear that, and it's also the thing where you have the person in the role. It's currently not hitting to expectations right now, and it's okay if, let's say, for example, Spoon comes in and then this group gets out to another slow start, and the players on the court, this year they've given games away. And is it all in the coaching staff? could say so, probably. And then if the same thing happens again this year, is it the coach staff again? I wouldn't say so at that point, because it would have been from Brondella, they gave games away, DeMarco, they've given games away. Insert
So then where does that go?
Yeah.
That's why, and we talk about this when we talk about Seattle, how much of this, and I do think there's a percentage that you have to put on the players on execution, right? And listen, sometimes shots are not going to fall. Sometimes you're going to go 1-19. But are you going to win the game? And sometimes that's good enough. But to your point, when you have across multiple coaching staffs, that this is the identity of the franchise, then at what point are we looking a little bit above the coaching staff? And there's something categorically wrong with how the team is envisioning itself and what the execution is. And the vision comes from above the coaching staff, and or the vision that the coaching staff has, or how the coaching staff can execute the vision that's coming from the front office. If those are not aligned, and if they're not a good match, but how many bad matches from coaching staff to front office are we going to look at before maybe there needs to be a change beyond just the coaching staff? And listen, I really like Jonathan Kolb. I think he is a visionary, and similarly to why they did not renews Sandy Brondello's contract, I think it is fair to ask if the New York Liberty are going to look at what Jonathan Kolb is bringing and the things that he said he wants to do. And is this the right time to try to get through that plan, or is it time to bring in someone with a different plan? I don't know the answer to that, but I think it's fair to put it on the table, because there's something that's not cooking right now. And what I will say again is, listen, don't take that job in New York or anywhere else, Teresa Weatherspoon, because to your point, she's not on the staff right now. And as much as I do think she could motivate this team, that's a heavy lift. And it seems like, if you almost take the Liberty out of the equation, a player with the legacy of Teresa Weatherspoon, who has been a head coach and had a better record than the current coach of the Chicago Sky, to not have a head coaching job, to have this hire, if that were to happen in this hypothetical, not go well, and then it's like, okay, here you go. That's like that. To me, that feels disrespectful, and I wouldn't take that job, whether it's New York or Timbuktu. No, Teresa Weatherspoon deserves a good chance, and she has the resume to get another chance, and not under this circumstance. If there's a coaching change, I would likely assume it's an interim situation where someone who's on the staff now takes over. And if that's not going to happen, then it's Chris DeMarco. But again, unless there is a drastic change, to which I still am not sure that DeMarco and the rest of the coaching staff would get enough credit for that I don't see this team being successful enough for DeMarco to keep his job, if the goal is still for this to be a championship team. Now, the other option then, Brian, to signal in this season that effectively you are beyond the expectation that you want to win a championship this year, and you're moving on to the future. So maybe that's as close as we get to Damien's wish of air quotes quitting. Then you have to start making trades. And you have to offload some salary and start looking at younger pieces, or putting yourself in a position where you're getting picks for younger pieces. I don't see the New York Liberty, and honestly, the WNBA doesn't have enough games to be that aggressive. Those are like some serious hockey moves where it's like at trade deadline, you're getting all kinds of draft picks, or you're giving up all kinds of draft picks to either try it and offload veterans and start afresh, or do some hybrid rebuild, or you're getting as many veterans and as many closers as you can, whatever the cost, because you know your team is that close to a championship. And it's not that you don't have faith in the team that you have, but you know that they have put their body on the line, and they need someone to take an extra shift with fresh legs, with a fresh outlook, with a fresh perspective on the team. To me, that's not signaling that you don't have faith. It's showing that you're going to do what you're asking them to do. You're going to do whatever it takes to win a championship. So if there's not a trade and Chris stays, then to me, that's the nonverbal communication that this is no longer a championship window, and this is a team that's about to be publicly in a rebuild.
Also, can I just stay on that for a quick second? Because I think what complicates this league compared to like other leagues that we're all familiar with is that you really can't do like a quick teardown and get back because the draft is a 2-year thing. So it's like you'd have to be bad for years, and I don't think the mechanics of the WNBA currently in 2026 and likely up until the next CBA in 2030, whatever, you're not draft reform is not happening in that way. So it's just like, oh, if the button was pressed, hey, we got to start over, you're going to start over, and the results won't be seen until 2031 at the earliest. Because
which is why the team didn't commit to that. When you have your big three committed to at least 2028, that's why I understand why they didn't commit to it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying either they're lying. That's harsh. Either they were not upfront with what the actual projection was of this team, or they did not estimate and calculate some things like injury, like having to overhaul and compensate for a new head coach in a league that continues to get more competitive. So like it's either it was a little bit too ambitious coming in, which I think is possible. It was perhaps an unwillingness to publicly, say that it's more of a hybrid than anything. Because you're right, Brian, like a whole retool, that's going to take so long. You have these players who are that are in great basketball shape that can still compete and help a championship win, but that especially some of them, like perhaps Jonquel Jones and Breanna Stewart, they're in by 2028, by 2031. I do think the impact that they have in the league is drastically different than it is right now. So if you're trying to hit a championship window by 31, you have to do it before 28. If you're going to keep your big three. If you are not worried about keeping the big three and you still want to get into a championship window, then you have to start making trades, and tough ones at that. But also, are you gonna kind of, how much do you blow up? To your point, I think you were kind of getting at, Ryan, right? What is the right formula? It's not easy, but also it's not easy because perhaps some of these decisions could have been made earlier, and then it would be a different situation.
Yeah, because I think because I think my brain, and I think this is where I'm so counter to what Damien is saying about sort of like shaking everything up. I think my brain is optimist brain by default, so that guides a lot of how I live life. But I think my thinking so much is I've seen the highs of this group this year, even accounting for all the flaws that are currently inherent within the roster and the team. And not so much the roster, I'd say, but more in terms of like what the execution has been from like coaching onward. I've seen the highs this year, and the highs you always chase. And I'm like, I've seen that high. I think Kay Langs had mentioned earlier, they took it to Atlanta, and they were less than full strength. Like just a couple weeks ago, they were in Vegas, and they dominated Vegas, and they were outstanding. So I've seen the highs of this group, even with the escape hatch victories in the past week. The highs of the year still, those bells are louder in my head than the bells of, oh, this has gone wrong. This has gone wrong. I think those highs from earlier and accounting for close enough health, optimal health, I think we're having a complete. I think if it were full strength across the board, I think so many results would be categorically different. And instead of 15-12, might be 21-6 per se, theoretically. Assuming there was full health all across the board. And then I think with 21-6, we look and say, oh, this weakness here doesn't matter that much because the results have carried, even if the process may not be what I would like. But I think now at 15-12, it's like, oh, the process, the results haven't hit. And the process, I think, is very shaky at best, malpractice at worst. I think that's where the result process really comes into play. So I think for this group, they've got 3 on the road this week: LA, at Vegas, at Phoenix, before coming home next week, I think. So I think for this group, I would bank in 2 wins, 1 loss. The wins being LA, at Phoenix, Vegas TBD, because the ace is always 50-50, and winning in Vegas is incredibly hard to do. So
Done it twice. Technically only once that counts, but twice.
Yeah. So I think for this group, a 2-1 week I think would be successful on the West Coast. If they can get 3-0, I think it powers them up a lot more coming back to New York City for a little bit of time, and then from there you're back in your house. You have a great home court advantage. Maybe you can sort of like restack wins like you had a couple weeks ago, because I think if they're able to stack those wins again, that 7 becomes a 4, and then there's a lot more breathing room across the board. And then when it's a 4, it's okay. I think once they get out of 7, if they can get themselves to 4, that's where you have more room to work with. And I think that's where you look and say, oh, okay, we have the size to match up with a Bree Jones Atlanta Dream squad. We have the versatility to match up with a Golden State team that's very sort of like, they hit you from so many different kind of angles. We've battled with the Aces plenty over the years. They know us, we know them. It's just get the ball out there. Who's the baddest dog on the block kind of thing. Same with Minnesota. So you see what's there. And then now they haven't seen feet in over a year, and they had success against Miles in the first match at Barclays Center. Can that be replicated? To be determined. But I think before we get to those questions, the first question I have is, can you get from 7 and you're 3 back of 4? Can you jump to 4? Can you get to the 4 seed over the next 3 weeks? I'd say if they're able to get from 7 to 4 in the next 3 weeks, I feel like that would give a lot more confidence to everyone across the board. And then as everyone starts winding up their WNBA duties for the time being and starts preparing for FIBA duties, and even though everyone is quote unquote off, a lot of minutes will be played.
Will be expended, right? Exactly. Listen, I've been saying this for several months now. A little bit off topic here, but it's going to be very interesting to see what USA Basketball does, because not only because they're the hosts, but also because they're already effectively locked in, even if they weren't the hosts, but they also happen to be the hosts. Mm-hmm. Then what squad do you send? Do you need to send A'ja Wilson and Breanna Stewart? I would say no. Let them get rest. I would say no. I don't think Breanna Stewart, I don't think A'ja Wilson, a Chelsea Gray needs to play in the World Cup. Now, if they want to, I don't think you say no to them, right? But also, I think it's going to be interesting to see what that roster looks like, because I don't think it's going to be the same roster that we see in 28 for a lot of different reasons.
Can I throw a curveball in the mix too?
Go for it.
First time head coach in the on a world stage for USA Basketball with the 5x5 team, Carol Lawson. First outing out, and also first outing for the newly created director of USA Basketball, Sue Bird. First day out for everybody. And now you wonder, even with USA having all the talent advantage that comes with it, now you have to figure out, what does it look like? Who goes? And then also we've talked so much about minutes allocations and such for the New York Liberty. Buddy, do you want to get the minutes wrong for USA Basketball? Because Cheryl Reeve almost did in 2024, and people wanted to go fight her from their houses in the US.
And I like Cheryl Reeve. I didn't necessarily understand all of those things. And also she was saying a lot of things about Jewel Lloyd, and then those things did not come to fruition. It was giving some real coach talk. So again, we'll be talking about that very soon. Also, if you're not already subscribed to the Women's Basketball Roundup, you're going to want to do that, because as we teased in our Slack channel for our premium subscribers, we have an ultimate guide to the World Cup. that we're getting ready for you, and our subscribers are going to get that for free, and our paid subscribers are going to get access to the one that we update in real time. Everyone else, you'll have to wait for the newsletter to get the updates all in one place, but our premium subscribers, either those who pay in the starting $5, and that's the month, $5 a month, or if you want to pay everything out front and join Legacy 22, you can do that as well. But we've got something for you, so you're not going to want to miss it. But yeah, World Cup is going to be really interesting for a lot of different reasons. And K-Langs, I didn't see what Asia said. I was getting ready for this, but Asia seemed on the fence from the clip today as if she'll be going. I'm not, I mean, I got to look at the clip, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if some big names don't go. They really don't have to. There's no incentive. And then you mess around and they get hurt. And then what? And then you're like, oh, well, it's because, you want to keep them in flow and, feeling good. Yeah, that's true. But what also is still going to happen? The WNBA season. So I don't know that you risk it for the biscuit, because you already have the biscuit. You have all the biscuits. You're the host. You don't need to win the championship. All of that would be for pride. Now, I'm not saying they're going to intentionally lose, but it goes to almost what we're talking about with the New York Liberty. What is the right balance? What is the right balance here? And are you going to trust what you say is a deep squad, or are you going to go to the usual suspects? But then how do you ever get better? How do you ever prepare? How do you make sure that it doesn't come down to the wire and a toe tuck by freaking Gabby Williams to not go to overtime against the host nation? How do you guarantee that doesn't happen? So I don't know. There's going to be a lot, and we're going to talk about it here. But I want to get back to, and we're going to start closing out here. But you say that this team, Z Diddy, and I'm glad you were able to join. We're about to wrap up, but you say that this is all about injuries, and that some of what Brian is saying, like that swing, that to get to a winning, or they have a winning record technically, but to get that 4 or 5 game swing, it's because of injuries. I would argue it could be, but what it also could be? Because of coaching. And that's my point. It's not equal. I don't know if I would say right now what the percentage is, but I think the point is that there are percentage points that are because of injury. There are percentage points because of lack of execution, and some of these overlap, just to be clear. It's not like a hard line. So some of it is injury, some of it is execution, and some of it is coaching. That I think that's evidently clear. Yeah, it's not one of those things. All three are contributing factors, which has the larger piece of the bar graph of the pie, whatever you want to say. I don't know that I have an answer right now, and I think it's very subjective. And as someone who is very clearly in now, I didn't want to be right, but I feel like I'm right about coaching. Even though I feel that way, I don't want to say that coaching is the overwhelming issue here because of those other factors. But more importantly, because I think it's more of a Venn diagram than it is a clean percentage. I think a lot of these things overlap, and the injuries impact the coaching decisions, but would a different coach make different decisions or handle the injuries differently? Would a different coach handle end of game differently? But maybe you could have a different coach, but if the players aren't handling end of game and they're not executing, then does it even matter? You see what I'm saying? So I think they're overlapping. It's not just one thing. I don't think it would be fair to anybody to give an overwhelming percentage. And what we know is, if again, this is a championship team, they're in a championship window and they don't make it to the playoffs, they don't make it out of the first round. Listen, I do think it's possible. I think it's possible for this team not to make the playoffs. I've said that for a while. I think it's probable that they will make the playoffs, but I also think it's probable that they will bow out in the first and or second round. I don't see this team getting to the semifinals. I don't see this team getting to the finals as of right now. They'd have to have their own version of a 16-0 season. Is that possible? Yes, it's possible. Do I think it's probable as of right now? What they've shown me, I don't think it's probable, but I think it's possible. It's mathematically possible, but that doesn't make it that it's probable.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of heavy lifting that needs to be done. And I think for this group, they've communicated that they're together, they're locked in.
Yes, Ronnie, the World Cup is in Berlin. I don't think I said otherwise. If I was talking about LA, that's the Olympics.
Yeah.
Yes. But this year in September, the World Cup is in Berlin. But when we talk about the Olympic roster, we're talking about LA 28. So hope that helps.
Yeah.
But yes.
And I could be mistaken, but host country automatically qualifies for all the events in the Olympics, right? If I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. So the United States has already qualified by way that they are the hosts. But even if they weren't the hosts, if I'm correct, and I'm pretty confident I am, the United States has already qualified because they've won the last 8 gold. You know what I'm saying? Like
Erica, quick trivia.
They don't need to win the World Cup to get to the Olympics because they're hosting the Olympics. But even if they did, if they weren't the hosts, in the hypothetical that they weren't hosting the 2028 Olympics, I think the team could still experiment with their World Cup roster and be just fine, is my point.
Yeah. Quick trivia for both of us. I believe the last time the USA women's basketball team lost a game, not a tournament, just a game.
Who was on the other side? Jingle, jangle.
The last time USA women's basketball as an institution lost a game, if I'm not mistaken, the year 2006. They haven't lost since I was in high school.
That's
I got a lot of.
You're talking about the national team, like at international play. I thought you meant the last time they lost a game. Well, actually, did they?
They didn't lose. They did not. Undefeated.
No. Hold on. My point is that Sabrina Ionescu handed Team USA a loss.
Oh yeah, 2019 Oregon. That's right. Oh yeah, she was cooking.
You know
up
what? Arike Ogunbowale has also handed USA basketball a loss.
24 All-Star, correct. You see.
But these are exhibitions, just in fairness. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, and also, because he pulled those out, Erica El Ayala, head Black Rosie in charge, gets the Black Rosie pin.
That's it. I love it. We should we're gonna make a belt or something. That's so overdone in hockey. We'll figure something out. But listen, y'all, we got to start wrapping up. But yes, Ronnie, World Cup in Berlin, Germany. That's going to be super dope. I thought of trying to get out there, but I have my friend's wedding and I don't want to cut it close and have any problems. But we will be covering it. Like I said, we have our guide. If you are one of our premium members, you can expect to get that. It's still a work in progress, but our premium members are going to help us make it even better. But we're going to give you the full schedule. We're giving you the rosters as we know them and updating them in real time. We are also going to give you some fun facts about the tournament, about the teams in the tournament, and so many more things. We're going to have the connections, NCAA and WNBA connections, because we know there's so many more players on the international level that are getting recognition because there are more through lines, or we're making them more accessible and we're doing more storytelling around them. I think is really probably more of it, or it's probably a little bit of both. But so we have all of that. If you're a premium member, again, you will get to that in real time. If you are a paid, or if you're a subscriber overall, every newsletter we will have the updated link. But again, those at the premium level, you'll get it in real time. When I make the updates, you'll have access to it. So I think that's going to be a good time. We'll have to see about this Liberty squad, because I think right now I want to see what they're able to do. I want to see them commit to the type of team. And I'm not talking about from an organizational level. I'm talking about the players. I'm talking about what we've seen Sabrina do. I'm talking about what we've seen Stewie continue to do. And the only thing Stewie can do, not the only thing, but the thing that Stewie feels that she can do to do even more for this team is to take responsibility for things that I don't think are all on her. Yes, she's missed layups. Yes, she's missed free throws. You know what she's also done? Played both sides of the ball. Taking care of the ball, gone and get 50-50 balls. She's also forced the officials to blow a whistle one way or another, even if it doesn't go her way. But you have to attack the basket if you want to get If you want to get layups, if you want to get free throws, you have to attack the basket. You can't just wait to be chucking up shots and, do one of those and then expect to get a whistle. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see if that is enough, but I don't think it's enough, because if it were enough, this team would be in a different place. I think what it's going to take is more people committing, like we talked about a little bit earlier. No excuses. Commit to 1, 2, however many things you can commit to, but commit to it and give 100% of the time. And if your 100% is at a 70, then give 100% of 70%, 100% of the time that you're given. And for Betnijah Laney-Hamilton, unfortunately, it looks like if the trend continues, the best that she can do, and what I do think she's been doing, is being vocal, is being supportive on the bench. And I think it's so unfortunate that might be the only role that she's given. But you know what? Stay ready. Stay ready, because if this team is really about it, if this team is serious about making a significant playoff run, at some point they're going to need Betnijah Laney-Hamilton. And if it's only 30 seconds, we saw what Sabrina could do in 40. And I think that's enough. I think it would be unfortunate if that's all that she's given the opportunity to give. And I just hope, and I don't really have any indication that she wouldn't be, but I just hope she's ready. Because, baby, if that's what turns around this Liberty squad, Al Page, you could serve me up crow, frog, whatever you want. I will eat it live. Because to me, that's worth the storyline alone. I'll be wrong and strong, because at least I wasn't wrong about that. That Betnijah Laney-Hamilton can still make an impact on this squad. Then I wasn't wrong about what we said, Brian, when you and I were interviewed for Liberty Unlocked. And I said, I don't think it made the final cut. But what I said is, Betnijah Laney-Hamilton is not considered part of the big three, but she's the heartbeat of this team. She was the heartbeat of that team in 2024. And you can't do anything without a heartbeat. And so she's going to facilitate that oxygenated blood all up and through this New York Liberty squad, whether she's on the bench or not. But listen, if the reason I'm wrong and the Liberty win another, it's not even that they have to win a championship. But if I'm wrong and they get out of the first round, they get out of the second round, they make the playoffs period, and they make a strong push, my thing is that then something probably changed with Betnijah Laney-Hamilton. If we don't see a big trade, which I think also could potentially bring it. But I think for me, assuming that everything stays the same, then it's Queen Bee. That's going to make the difference.
A lot to uncover, a lot to dig in. The 7-game series I was not prepared for. Al Page and Erica. 2 elite minds doing battle, but there can only be one. Who will be the one? Let's get it. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. So, hey, they would have to run the gauntlet. You're right, Ronnie. So we'll have to see what happens. But that's our chat. I'm trying to Ronnie's talking about the folks need to understand. I might have missed something. What happened with the Seattle New York comp? I don't know. I do think there are a lot of comps between Seattle and New York within the last 5 years. They have this weird cycle going on, I think. So I'm very curious to see. But we spill into Seattle a little bit here. We spill into Dallas, Chicago. I mean, we cover the league, so we got to talk about everything.
There's one thing you forgot in honor of our good friend Misha Jones. We made it about the Washington Mystics.
We did. Listen, and not to make it about the Mystics, but also the Washington Mystics. I'm telling you, don't sleep on them. I've been saying it for a while. I've been saying it for like a year and a half if we want to keep it a buck, but I've definitely been saying it this season. I got to speak to Sonia Citron about it, and they're just having fun. And you know what, Brian? I don't know that this Liberty team feels loose right now. I don't know. And I'm not saying they're not having fun, but there's a difference. And I hate that I even had this thought, but I'm going to say it. That's why when Kelsey Plum said what she said after 2023, I was mad for a few different reasons. One, I was like, don't do that. Don't come talking about somebody else's relationship. You know, mind your business. Mind your business. Mind your business. Handle your relationship. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. That was number one. That's kind of wild. You know what I'm saying? Like you like if you put it in regular people terms, like, oh, you just talking about my marriage. That like if we not family like that, don't do that. I might say some things, but you just listen and don't make any declarative statements about your friend's spouse. That's a bad vibe, because whether they stay together or don't, then now your friend knows how you feel. Anyway, just some advice that we once got from Sex and the City. Anyway, but that's why I didn't like what Kelsey Plum said. The other reason I didn't like what she said is because I knew what she meant, or I felt that I knew what she meant. And I also kind of knew she was right. Did I think she literally meant that team didn't love each other? No. Do I think she meant that the team didn't love each other like the Vegas Aces love each other? That's probably closer to what she meant. And I think that's why we saw that Aces team do what they did in 2023. It's also why we saw the New York Liberty team do what it did in 2024. Let's put this in New York Knickerbockers terms. For some of y'all, the reason you're mad at Becky Hammon is because you know she was right. Including the Knickerbockers organization, because then they went out and got some other key players, particularly some bigs for him, and that's why y'all got a championship. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean somebody's wrong, and just because you fix it also doesn't mean that they were wrong. And that's the hurtful part. So we got to figure out, like what is this New York Liberty squad going to be about? I think that I would love to see them play with more heart, more sandpaper, and also more joy. There's a lot of reason to be stressed out. There's a lot of reason to feel like your back is against the wall. And leadership is also about giving some of that levity, right? Releasing the valve. That's also what, and by leadership, I'm not expecting that only, or even maybe to be even be initiated by the team leadership or the player leadership. That also has to come from the coaching staff, and that has to come from the front office. It's everyone's responsibility. And I know that Jonathan Kolb knows that. We talk about it. He talks about it all the time. We know that we have pressure. We know that people see us as championship or bust, and we take that seriously. And now I want to see that part of it. I want to see them take the responsibility, and a part of that is knowing that you have to release the pressure from the players. You have to release the pressure a little bit. And show that this is a coordinated, cohesive team that's decided that you're just going to win. I would love to see it. I haven't seen enough of it to feel confident that that's going to happen in the way it needs to happen for them to be a top 4 team. But I've been wrong before, as Al Page can tell you. I've been wrong before. So we'll see. Al said, I saw the joy at the end of the Chicago game. The way they hugged and celebrated each other was nice to see. It was nice to see. See, now am I catching strays all in the comment? Bites tongue, # worst take. I don't know.
What was the timestamp on that?
Worst take? What's the worst take?
To the Slack channel, Lemire.
About Kelsey Plum?
Oh.
Damien saying maybe Kelsey Plum was right about the Liberty mindset, and they're not on the same page collectively, and they're showing any confidence. Well, first of all, Damien, again, you can't talk about what Kelsey said in 2023 and relate it to the 2026 team. That's not what I was doing, and that's not realistic for a lot of different reasons. What I was making the comparison is that Kelsey Plum was right in 2023, even though I didn't want to hear it, and I was being a hater for a hot second because I was like, mind your business. But my point there was that sometimes when you get slapped in the face and your family comes to your rescue, then all the little dramas that you were beefing about don't matter anymore. That's what needs to happen for New York to really get some things together. Well, All right. I don't know what Amir was biting his tongue over, but he'll have to tell us in the Slack channel. Again, Brian's got a newsletter coming out on Wednesday. That's your opportunity to make sure you are getting access to our complete guide for the FIBA World Cup. You can subscribe for free, and then you'll get an update every Wednesday and Friday when the newsletter gets out, or you can be one of our premium subscribers, and you will get a direct access to the document, and we will make sure that you get the updates. But hey, that's our show. Another long one, but I think a good one. We went a lot of places.
We throw complete games around here, people. 9 innings only.
That's it.
That's it. 9.
That's it. All right, y'all. Not okay. Now I'm being called trifling in my own chat. That's trifling. That's trifling to do.
Boy, you old too.
Don't
use no trifling at us, boy.
I know, like we're not that familiar yet. Come on, man. How you call me trifling? How you call me trifling? That's crazy. Good talk, my people. My hating self is signing off. Not my hating self. Al Page the hater. Yes, Al Page the hater. I'll see y'all. Sharice talking about let's get this dub. We'll see. It's one you could get. It's definitely within reach. So we'll see. And yeah, Sabrina has to come through the consistency, but we've seen the consistency in clutch, so I think you'll take it. But yes, it has to grow out into all 4 quarters, but that's not just Sab. Anyway, all right, let's Ellie. Oh my goodness, I can't believe we got through this whole episode, and I didn't even mention maybe one of the most important things that happened at All-Star. Ellie has our new Gotta Get Up sticker. I was about to Ellie wave us off, and then I forgot that Ellie the elephant not only has one of these stickers, we have stickers now, y'all, but when I tell you Ellie gave me an Ellie stomp after seeing the Gotta Get Up logo with, of course, Ellie is in the logo. We're going to have to talk about that on the next podcast because I can't believe I really got through this whole thing and we didn't even talk about it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure you go follow Black Rosie Media on social media because, yes, I got to meet Ellie the elephant. I've never actually met Ellie. Like, we've never had a conversation. And our first conversation, as much as you can converse with a mascot that is an elephant, our first conversation nonverbal on Ellie's part, was epic. And I should have led with this. This is why I mess up our SEO all the time. This is what the people want. This is what the people want. We are an Ellie approved podcast. Again, I didn't hear the words, but I did. You know what I'm saying, Brian? It's an Ellie approved podcast. I got the tap, yeah, like the influencer tap, okay, on our logo. It was one of those. We did a French style kiss. Both cheeks, and then you do the auntie wipe because I got a little bit of the makeup on Ellie, so we have to look out for each other. It was phenomenal.
The trunk never lies.
The trunk never lies. Ellie be knowing. So there you go. That's what we're gonna put in our bio. That Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, is an Ellie approved podcast, and we have the proof. Go over to our TikTok, Blue Sky, Instagram. It's up on Threads. The only place we don't go is the hellscape formerly known as Twitter. But yeah, no, there's a lot going on there that we will not be a party of. But yeah, you could go everywhere else. So check that out. Ellie approved podcast signing off with a wave. We'll catch you next episode. Peace out, everybody. As soon as I play the beautiful bean footage. Oh.